Chapter 226. Like a dragonfly skimming the water, then retreated swiftly. Lin Xian was stunned. He touched his cheek, then laughed bitterly. Inexplicably, a beautiful face suddenly appeared in his heart, akin to a celestial immortal. Sky Martial Region. Lin Xian said in a low voice. A night without words. The next day the two people set off again, advancing at top speed. 3 days later they finally arrived at Dragon Cliff City. Dragon Cliff City was even more prosperous than Flame City. Those coming and going were powerhouses. Where are you going? Lin Xian asked. Zhao Shui looked at Lin Xian and smiled sweetly. Sir Lin, thank you very much for escorting me all the way. This young girl is endlessly grateful. If fate wills it, we'll meet again. Finished talking, Zhao Shui's eyes revealed a trace of determination and she left quickly. Watching Zhao Shui leave, Lin Xian walked towards the center of the city. There was a myriad treasure tower branch there. Finding the myriad treasure tower, he walked in and stated the purpose of his visit. Lin Xian, you're here. Vivian ran out with a smile. The competition is about to start. I thought you weren't coming. Vivian grumbled somewhat. Why would I? Lin Xian smiled. Some things happened on the way and delayed some time. Ah, you became a second-grade inscription master? Vivian looked at the 2 golden patterns on Lin Xian's chest, her expression full of surprise. Even Elder Gu, who sensed it, had a look of shock too. The difficulty of the second-grade inscription master examination, he was aware. Being able to have 20% was already pretty good. Young friend Lin's talent is exceptional. Looks like we have hope this time. Elder Gu said with a chuckle. Quickly come in. Vivian pulled Lin Xian and walked in. On this day the myriad treasure tower was incomparably lively. Many elders had smiles on their faces. Some disciples who did not know the situation asked one after another, only then did they know that a youth called Lin Xian had arrived. Lin Xian? What's the big deal? Immediately many disciples were disdainful in their hearts. Before long, the entire myriad treasure tower knew that a genius youth had arrived today. Everyone, Elder Gu invites you in. An attendant came to report. Perfect, I want to see what kind of monster this Lin Xian is. He definitely can't compare to Senior Martial Brother Lu. Not to mention Senior Brother Lu, I think even Senior Brother Ding can't compare with him. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, everyone arrived at the backyard. Look, it's Senior Brother Ding. It is said that Senior Brother Ding has reached the peak of 1 seal soul power. I wonder if it is true? It must be true. Look at that aura, that pressure, it's definitely not fake. Look, Senior Brother Lu is here. Another group of people exclaimed. Even Senior Brother Ding looked at the entrance with a solemn face. Senior Brother Lu is already here. Why isn't that Lin Xian here yet? That's right. How arrogant. Many of Senior Brother Lu's supporters said coldly. Elder Gu is here. It was unknown who shouted. Suddenly the entire courtyard quieted down. Everyone looked at the entrance. They saw an old man in a white robe walk in with a smile. Behind him was a beautiful woman and a handsome young man. Everyone's gaze turned towards the delicate and pretty young man. They had never seen this young man before. He must be that Lin Xian. Many people had a cold expression and were ready to mock him. However, when they saw the 2 golden lines on Lin Xian's chest, they suddenly froze in place. Even Senior Brother Ding looked surprised and Senior Brother Lu frowned slightly. Second-grade inscription master. Many people's voices were trembling. Almost no one dared to look at Lin Xian with dissatisfaction. That was a second-grade inscription master. In their hearts, only Senior Brother Lu could compare to him. Haha, everyone is here. Elder Gu smiled and said, this is our young friend Lin Xian. With his participation, our chances of winning this time will increase by quite a bit. Lin Xian smiled and greeted the others. Then he stood behind Elder Gu and said no more. Next, Elder Gu explained the situation of the Battle of Inscriptions. Everyone listened carefully. Lin Xian also pricked up his ears. He found out that these people were only disciples of the 1,000 Treasures Tower. Moreover, not everyone could participate. Including Lin Xian, there were only 5 people in total. Other than that, there were several other forces in Great Xia that would send disciples. One of them was the Inscription Alliance. Although the Inscription Alliance was a large regional organization, there was competition between the sub-leagues of various countries. Therefore, they were indispensable in this battle. Other than the Inscription Alliance, there was also the Ouyang family. This was an ancient family that was somewhat famous in the inscription world of Great Xia. 3 days later, the 3 forces of Great Xia would gather in Dragon Cliff City and head to Greenwater Valley together. There, they would compete with the inscription masters of Shadow Country and Rain Country to determine the quota to enter the inscription tower. After an hour, everyone dispersed and began to prepare carefully. 3 days later, the Thousand Treasures Tower attracted the other two forces. Lin Xian recognized the people of the Inscription Alliance. The leaders were Elder Song and Deacon Meng. Among the disciples, Lin Xian saw Huang Shanshan and Zhou Yong. On the other side was the Ouyang family. The leader was an old man with a dragon-headed walking stick. Behind him stood 6 or 7 young men. One of them had an unusually strong soul power. The aura that occasionally leaked out was frightening. Lin Xian was slightly surprised. Judging from the strength of the soul power, the young man's soul power seemed to be stronger than his. There are indeed many experts. Lin Xian had a hint of excitement in his heart. The people of the Ouyang family and the Inscription Alliance were also secretly observing Lin Xian and the others. After many people saw Lin Xian, they were surprised. This was because such a young second-grade inscription master had never appeared before. There were a total of 15 inscription masters in Xia country. They could be said to be the elites. Among the 15, Lin Xian, Huang Shanshan, Lu Qin, and Ouyang Changming were all second-grade inscription masters. Their soul power was very strong. The other 11 were first-grade inscription masters. Among them, Zhou Yong and Ding Zhe were at the peak of the first-grade inscription masters. At this point, all the inscription masters of Xia country were present. Elder Song, Elder Gu and Elder Ouyang would be leading the team for the competition this time around. Everyone reorganized themselves and headed towards the Green Water Valley. 3 huge blue-striped birds landed in the courtyard. Each of them was more than 10 meters long. When they flapped their wings, they formed a small gust of wind. Lin Xian and the others got on and quickly left. The 3 old men sat on 3 sides. They were all harmonious spirit realm experts. They could easily create a strong protective shield. Without the interference of the gust of wind, Lin Xian closed his eyes and began to comprehend the inscription copied from the stone eyeball. The competition this time would definitely be a gathering of experts. He didn't want to make a fool of himself in the competition. After Elder Gu's explanation, Lin Xian knew that the competition this time was very simple. It was a martial arts competition on the arena. Compared to an ordinary martial arts competition, the competition between inscription masters was much more dangerous. It was because there was a possibility of soul damage at any time. And this kind of damage had a huge impact on the cultivator. As for the reward, it was naturally to enter the inscription tower. Chapter 227. A day later, a dark green valley appeared below. "We're here." Elder Gu's voice had a hint of seriousness. Many disciples on the blue-striped birds opened their eyes and looked down at the valley below. Lin Xian also lowered his head and looked down. The valley was surrounded by green trees, green mountains and clear water, just like a paradise on earth. "Is the inscription tower here?" Many disciples were excited. Elder Song's eyes flashed. It said that this inscription tower was left behind by an inscription grandmaster. "You must seize this opportunity." Inscription grandmaster. Lin Xian was surprised. To be able to be called a grandmaster, he must be a great figure. The 3 blue-striped birds slowly descended and landed in the valley. Everyone jumped off the birds and looked around. In the middle of the valley, there was a huge array platform, exuding a vicissitude aura. On the other 3 sides of the array platform, there were some stone stands for people to rest and watch. This inscription tower battle has a history of more than 100 years, so the facilities here are more complete, Elder Gu explained. Once every 10 years, this should be the 10th time. Let's go and rest first. The group of people walked towards the east side of the grandstand. Half a day later, the people of Rain Country arrived. The 2 sides greeted each other and then took their seats. It said that an inscription genius has appeared in Rain Country. "You must be careful when the time comes," Elder Gu said. Inscription genius. Everyone was slightly stunned. To be able to make the elder think so highly of him, he must not be an ordinary person. For some reason, many people looked at Lin Xian. In their eyes, Lin Xian was also an inscription genius. After all, it was rare to see such a young second-grade inscription master. Just as they were discussing, a group of people arrived. "It's Shadow Country." Elder Gu's voice was serious. Rain Country's strength was about the same as theirs, but this Shadow Country far surpassed them. And the champion of the competition was always Shadow Country. A group of people slowly descended from the huge flying ship, and Lin Xian looked over with interest. Most of the people of Shadow Country had arrogant looks, not taking Summer Country and Shadow Country seriously at all. However, they did have the qualifications to be arrogant. Lin Xian could sense that their soul force was extremely powerful, and among them, there were two whose auras made him feel apprehensive. One of them was dressed in purple and even his hair was purple. The presence on his body had reached the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, and his eyes even made Lin Xian apprehensive. Purple light flashed as if there was a formless suction force that wanted to suck away everyone's minds. Purple Extreme Devil Palace. Lin Xian's heart sank. The other person was dressed in a black robe, and his entire body was hidden in the darkness. Although the aura on his body was ordinary, the occasional fluctuations that leaked out made Lin Xian frown. The two countries came quite early. The leader of the Shadow Country was a purple-robed old man. Since everyone is here, let's begin. The disciples of the Shadow Country all walked towards the north side of the stands, while the purple-robed old man swept to the center of the platform. This old man will first explain the rules. The competition will be divided into 3 groups for elimination, and the top 3 of each group will enter the finals. The purple-robed old man slowly said, the top 3 of the finals will be qualified to enter the inscription tower, and the first place will also receive a soul-gathering pill. This soul-gathering pill is refined by the Inscription Alliance. It can condense a martial artist's soul, increase the degree of soul condensation, and increase the chances of breaking through to the 3rd seal of soul force. Elder Song took a deep breath. There's actually a soul-gathering pill. It seems that this competition will be much more intense. The Inscription Alliance was a colossus in the entire Tianan region, and the 3 countries of Xia Country were only a few countries in the Tianan region. To a certain extent, they all belonged to the Inscription Alliance. When the young inscription masters heard about the soul-gathering pill, they immediately exclaimed. Everyone looked excited and couldn't wait to start the competition immediately. Little Xian, this is good stuff. Wine Lord transmitted his voice. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. Originally, he only wanted to enter the inscription tower, but now it seemed that he had to get first place. Right now, he really needed to increase his strength. The soul-gathering pill was too tempting for him. With the soul-gathering pill, his soul force would increase again, and at that time his chances of defeating Lin Feng would be much higher. On Xia Country's side, Ouyang Changming had a confident smile on his face, but the hands hidden in his sleeves were tightly clenched. In the distance, the purple-haired youth from the Purple Extreme Demon Palace had an evil smile on his face, as if the soul-gathering pill had already become his private property. On Rain Country's side, a young girl with an ethereal temperament sat with a smile on her face, her beautiful eyes shining. The center of the arena glowed, forming 3 independent arenas. Each arena was 100 meters wide, enough for spiritual C-tier martial artists to compete. Lin Xian and Vivian were assigned to the first group. The 2 of them walked near the first arena, waiting for the start of the competition. There were dozens of people gathered near the first arena. All of them had powerful auras and souls, and their strength was equivalent to martial artists in the top 30 of the Hidden Dragon ranking. Among them, the one that Lin Xian feared the most was the black-robed martial artist from the Shadow Country. Through his understanding, he knew that the black-robed man belonged to the Dark Shadow Palace, a very mysterious sect. Aside from the black-robed man, there were several second-tier inscribers near the first arena, and their cultivation level was above the 6th layer of spiritual C-tier. The other 2 arenas were also filled with people. The most eye-catching one in the second arena was the purple-haired youth from the Purple Extreme Demon Palace, and the third arena was occupied by the ethereal young girl. The center of the arena glowed brightly, and the multicolored light soared into the sky. This meant that the competition was about to begin. Lin Xian retracted his gaze and returned it to the first arena. The 2 youths called out by the referee walked onto the arena. The black arena emitted 2 rays of light that fell on the 2 youths. Lin Xian knew that this was to test whether the 2 youths were inscribers or not. If they weren't, then they would be rejected by the black arena, and the corresponding result would be elimination. However, the 3 countries and 9 forces obviously knew this rule, so the disciples who came to compete this time were all inscribers. One of the youths on the arena was actually the black-robed youth from the Dark Shadow Palace, and his opponent was a youth from the Rain Country. As soon as the competition began, the black-robed youth drew a black rune with both hands, and like a black scythe, it sent his opponent flying with one strike. The surrounding martial artists instantly cried out in surprise. They didn't even see what that black rune was before the competition ended. Several second-tier inscribers looked at the black-robed martial artist with serious expressions. Before this, they didn't take this person seriously. Lin Xian's eyes flashed and he was surprised. He sensed a dangerous soul fluctuation from the black rune. The competition progressed quickly and was very exciting. Many of the moves were eye-opening for Lin Xian. And at this time the referee called out Lin Xian's name. Lin Xian, go. Vivian waved her little fist at the side. With a faint smile, Lin Xian's body flashed and he arrived on the arena. Opposite him, a white-robed youth stood proudly, and there were 2 golden patterns embroidered on his chest. Chapter 228. The moment the arrogant young man stepped onto the stage, a group of people cheered. Even the martial artists from the other 2 arenas looked over. After all, second-grade inscriptionists were already the top existences here. Sigh, encountering a second-grade inscriptionist, that kid is really unlucky. That's our eldest senior brother, Hien Kai. Not only is his soul power outstanding, his strength has reached the 7th level of the Spirit Sea realm. Dealing with a kid at the 6th level of the Spirit Sea realm is a piece of cake. At this time, Lin Xian had already taken off his second-grade inscriptionist silver robe, so these people did not know of Lin Xian's strength. There was also a trace of worry in Vivian's eyes. The other party's cultivation was stronger than Lin Xian's. Hien Kai was an outstanding youth of Shadow Country's Inscription Palace. His soul power and cultivation were top existences. Lin Xian's first opponent was actually so terrifying. The inscriptionists of Xia Country did not look too good. Elder Gu and Elder Song also frowned. Although Lin Xian was valiant, his opponent was even more valiant. Comparing the 2, Lin Xian seemed to be at a disadvantage. Elder Song, I'm afraid you're going to lose this round. A loud laugh came from the side. Everyone turned their heads, their faces were abnormally ugly. Not far from them were the inscriptionists of Shadow Country. One of the old men had a smug look on his face. He was Hien Sai's master. Old man, the competition hasn't started yet. It's too early to say who will win. Elder Song said with a sullen face. Too early? It's not early. Such an obvious gap, even a blind person can see it. Elder He laughed loudly. The Inscription Palace where old man he was at was actually a branch of the Inscription Alliance. However, he and Elder Song were from 2 different countries and were naturally in a competitive relationship. Now that he could get rid of his old rival, he naturally felt good. Is that so? Elder Song said in a deep voice. Lin Xian is also a second-grade inscriptionist. It's not certain who will win. Elder He was slightly surprised. The people of Shadow Country's Inscription Palace were also surprised. Impossible. He's obviously a youth, how can he be a second-grade inscriptionist? The people of Inscription Palace obviously did not believe it. Old Song, a loss is a loss. Why must you make such a joke? Elder He sneered. Everyone from Xia Country felt aggrieved. These guys from Shadow Country were too arrogant. Their tails were raised to the sky. I believe that Lin Xian will definitely win. Huang Shanshan said softly. Everyone looked at arena number 1 with a glimmer of hope in their hearts. On the first arena, Lin Xian and Hien Kai were already fighting. The 2 of them were moving quickly in the arena. After images flashed on the black arena, accompanied by wind, thunder, lightning and surging spiritual energy. So fast. Many martial artists could not keep up with the speed of their eyes and could only use their soul power. They feared Hien Kai from the bottom of their hearts, but Lin Xian's performance had exceeded their expectations. His speed was not at all inferior to Hien Sai's. Hien Sai's expression was cold and arrogant as he attacked mercilessly. He was the number 1 disciple of the Inscription Palace. Naturally, he did not place Lin Xian in his eyes. His soul power spread out and he clearly captured the trajectory of Lin Xian's movements. A sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. Hien Kai waved his palm at the back left like lightning. The surging spiritual energy surged and the air whistled. This palm was like a tsunami, powerful to the extreme. Everything within 10 meters behind him was shrouded by the wind from his palm. Whoosh! A figure appeared. It was Lin Xian. He appeared. Ah, he finally appeared. Senior brother, he is mighty. Finish him in 1 move. The disciples of the Inscription Palace shouted. In their view, Lin Xian who appeared was a human target. He would definitely not be able to escape from Hien Sai's palm. Ah, Old Song, you have lost. Elder He laughed arrogantly. Elder Song and the others' faces were gloomy. The inscriptionists of Xia Country were silent. Not good. Near arena number 1, Vivian's face also changed. Lose for me. Hien Kai sneered. His palm struck out like a tsunami and the violent spiritual energy hit Lin Xian. Boom! An earth-shattering tremor spread in all directions from arena number 1. At this moment, All the cultivators in the valley were looking at ring number 1 with shock on their faces. Elder Song and the others' hearts sank. They didn't think that Lin Xian would be able to withstand such a blow. Prepare the elixir to rescue him. Lin Xian has unlimited potential. We can't leave any hidden injuries. Elder Song began to deploy. Crack. In the huge spiritual energy vortex, the power of lightning suddenly flashed and brandished its claws in the air. Everyone looked over in shock, waiting for the moment the result would be revealed. The spiritual energy vortex dissipated and arena number 1 returned to normal. 2 figures appeared in the arena. Yingsai's palm was firmly imprinted on Lin Xian's chest. On the other hand, Lin Xian's entire body was suffused with the glow of lightning. Numerous complicated lightning runes appeared on the surface of his body, and they were filled with a violent energy. "This is your attack," Lin Xian said lightly. "Too weak." Yingsai's pupils constricted and fear welled up in his heart. Impossible. How could he block senior brother He's attack? The Inscription Palace's warriors cried out loudly while the others were in an uproar. Too shocking. Too unexpected. A martial artist at the 6th level of the Spiritual Sea Realm actually took a blow from a martial artist at the 7th level of the Spiritual Sea Realm head-on and was completely fine. On the grandstand, Elder He's face was solemn and his eyes were filled with shock. Not only him but even Elder Song and Elder Gu were shocked. Those inscriptionists of Great Xia were even more stunned. They did not dare to believe such means. "Old man things seem to be different from what you predicted." Elder Song struck a blow. Elder He's face darkened as he cursed in his heart. He actually misjudged. How many years had it been since something like this happened? "Why, you're actually fine?" On the stage, Yingsai's voice trembled. "You should worry about yourself." Lin Xian's eyes turned cold and his right hand was like an iron clamp, firmly grabbing onto Yingsai's arm. Exerting a little force, Lin Xian lifted Yingkai up and smashed him onto the ground. "Not good. You dare." The Inscription Palace's martial artists all exclaimed and were abnormally worried. "Let go." Yingkai was furious. His entire body's spiritual power surged, forming a terrifying spiritual power storm. However, in front of Lin Xian's copper thunder pattern, everything was useless. Soul interference. At the last moment, Yingkai used his soul power. His powerful soul power surged towards Lin Xian. As long as Lin Xian's soul was attacked, he could immediately counterattack. Lin Xian was not afraid. His soul power surged out and clashed with Yingsai's. In the next moment, Lin Xian successfully blocked Yingsai's soul power, while Yingkai himself crashed heavily onto the ground. Boom. The black ground was abnormally hard and did not shatter. However, his huge impact caused the entire stage to shake as if an earthquake happened. Pooh. Chapter 229. Lin Xian's attack caused Yingkai to suffer internal injuries. Falling to the ground, Yingsai's mind was in a daze. The spiritual sea in his body was in chaos. He was puzzled by the scene just now. He had clearly used a soul attack, but the other party was not affected at all. Furthermore, he could feel a strong soul power resisting him. Is he also a second-grade inscription master? Yingkai suddenly had such a thought in his mind. However, he quickly ruled it out. Such a young second-grade inscription master had never appeared in the history of the Shadow Country, let alone the relatively backward Xia country. He rolled and quickly fled to the back. However, Lin Xian did not give him a chance to escape. His palm shot out like lightning and he grabbed Yingkai once again. What? Everyone was stunned. Shameless, let go of the eldest senior brother. Despicable. The people of the Inscription Palace cursed loudly, their eyes were burning with anger. However, the martial artists of Xia country were extremely excited. Many of them could not help but shout. Before the start of the competition, they had been ridiculed by the people of the Shadow Country. Now that they had the chance, they naturally wanted to return the favor. Kid, you've angered me. Yingkai was an elite of the Inscription Palace. He had never suffered such humiliation before. Moreover, his opponent was a youth who was inferior to him in all aspects. His soul force violently tumbled and a terrifying aura filled the air. Soul shock. A sharp voice rang out, followed by a terrifying soul force. At this moment, the martial artists near the first arena trembled. They felt a tremor from their souls. It felt as if their souls would be extinguished at any time. Great, it's senior brother He's soul's secret skill. That kid is dead for sure. No one can escape senior brother He's soul shock. The disciples of the Inscription Palace revealed a victorious expression. In the stands, Elder He also breathed a sigh of relief. I didn't expect him to use his ultimate move so quickly. To be defeated by this move, you people of Xia country should be proud. Elder He's words shocked Elder Song and the others. They naturally knew the power of the Soul Shock secret skill. Anyone who was hit by it would have their soul severely damaged. In serious cases, it could lead to immediate death. Damn it. Nothing can happen to Lin Xian. Elder Gu clenched his fists. Ying Sai's eyes flashed with a vicious light. Lin Xian's actions made him want to kill him. Feeling the pressure on his soul, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. Runes flashed in his left eye, and the soul sword quickly slashed out. Ying Sai's soul attack was cut into two like a piece of cloth. A blood-curdling scream rang out. Ying Kai clutched his head and screamed as blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. Bang! Lin Xian kicked him out of the field. Silence, absolute silence. The cultivators near stage 1 were all stunned, not daring to believe the reality in front of them. That was soul shock. How could it be broken so easily? Senior apprentice brother He. The people of Inscription Palace regained their senses and quickly ran towards Ying Kai. Whoosh! A figure quickly appeared beside Ying Kai. This was an old man, Elder He of the Inscription Palace. His soul reached out and circled around Ying Sai's body. His face immediately turned gloomy. This old man has misjudged you. Elder He looked at Lin Xian coldly. Feeling the pressure of a harmonious spirit expert, Lin Xian's face turned slightly pale. The dragon pattern in his body shone brightly, and the great dragon sword intent roared in his body. Suddenly, Lin Xian felt a surge of energy filling his body, and the pressure of a harmonious spirit expert gradually disappeared. Elder He, please mind the rules. The judge of stage 1 walked over with a warning tone. Elder He glared at Lin Xian with hatred, and then quickly brought Ying Kai back to the spectator stand to treat his injuries. Elder Song, very good, very good. Elder He looked at the great Xia's side and said coldly, "Thank you for letting me win." Elder Song and the others were not afraid of Elder He. However, they were shocked from the bottom of their hearts. Lin Xian's attack was too shocking. The winner is Lin Xian. The judge said in a clear voice. Hua! The disciples of Great Xia cheered and shouted, while the disciples of the other 2 countries were stunned. Especially the disciples of the Shadow Country, their faces were gloomy. They could not accept this result. Lin Xian hee. The black rogue youth from the Dark Shadow Palace let out a low laugh. I hope you won't disappoint me. This voice made some of the nearby disciples feel a chill in their hearts. Many of them quietly moved away from the black rogue youth. They had seen the black rogue youth's strength, and the disciples of the Dark Shadow Palace knew how powerful he was. Many of the Shadow Country's disciples looked at Lin Xian with hatred. As long as the black rogue youth attacked, Lin Xian would lose without a doubt. Lin Xian, be careful. Vivian said with a worried face. Obviously, she felt the unusual atmosphere nearby. I'm fine. Be careful. If you can't do it, you can give up. Lin Xian said in a low voice. The wound on the soul is hard to heal. You must think carefully. Vivian nodded. She knew how powerful it was. As expected, in the later rounds of the competition, the people of the Inscription Palace began to specifically target Vivian. However, Vivian's strength had reached the 6th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, and her soul power had reached the peak of a first-grade inscription master. In the vicinity of the first stage, aside from a few second-grade inscriptionists, there were really not many who were her match. The competition continued. A few second-grade inscriptionists stepped onto the stage one by one and easily defeated their opponents. Gradually, the division of strength between each side appeared. The first tier was Lin Xian, the Black Rogue Youth, and a few other second-grade inscriptionists. These people all subdued their opponents within a few moves. However, the following matches refreshed everyone's understanding of the Black Rogue Youth. In the second round, the Black Rogue Youth, Shadowless, stepped onto the stage again. His opponent was Rain Country's second-grade inscription master, Jianghu. The Black Rogue Youth's hands moved, forming a black symbol in front of him that contained a terrifying energy. His opponent, Jianghu, was holding a circular weapon that was covered with sharp gears. With a wave of his hand, the circular metal gear flew out like lightning. On top of it, there were dozens of tiny blades flying out. Jianghu's soul power surged, controlling the flying blades that filled the sky, forming an all-around attack. Boom! The Black Rogue Youth, Shadowless, shook his body and disappeared from where he stood. Ding ding ding. All the flying blades hit the ground, forming a string of sparks. Jianghu's attack failed. He spread out his soul power and instantly sensed the black-robed youth's location. Behind me. He suddenly turned around, but what welcomed him was a flash of black light. Chi-chi. Like a bolt of black lightning, it quickly hit the circular gear. A thumb-sized hole appeared. The black light passed through the metal and heavily hit Jianghu's body. His spiritual power armor was penetrated, and a bloody hole appeared on his body. I admit defeat. Jianghu covered his wound and walked down the stage with a terrified expression. Chapter 230. Everyone was stunned. Even a second-grade inscription master like Jianghu couldn't last more than 2 moves in the hands of the black-robed youth. If anyone else went up, they would be killed in seconds. Lin Xian looked at the black-robed youth with a dignified look in his eyes. Very strong. That was his feeling. Swish. The black-robed youth looked at Lin Xian. His gaze was like a pillar of fire, unbearably hot. Lin Xian's expression didn't change. The sword light in his eyes flashed like a peerless divine sword unsheathed, incomparably sharp. Ding ding ding. Sparks appeared in the air, like metal intersecting, and a wave of energy quickly spread out. Hee hee, the black-robed youth sneered and quickly walked down the stage. Not long after, Lin Xian went up the stage again. Many people were shocked and looked at Lin Xian with a dignified look. Until now, no one would underestimate Lin Xian. However, when they saw Lin Xian's opponent, they all exclaimed, "Aha, that Lin kid is dead." Many disciples of the Inscription Palace sneered. The disciples of the state of Great Xia frowned and looked cautiously at the figure on the stage. She was wearing a purple short skirt that just reached her thighs. Her upper body was even more revealing, and most of her snow-white chest was exposed, making people want to vomit blood. Delicate face, devilish figure, she was simply a demoness. So beautiful. Tisk tiske, that thigh is so white. You want to die? Don't talk nonsense. She is the second disciple of the Purple Demon Palace. Someone warned. Purple Demon Palace. Suddenly, many martial artists' faces regained their clarity, and even their eyes were restrained. This Purple Demon Palace was not only a third-grade sect of the Shadow Country, but it was also powerful and cruel. Otherwise, it wouldn't be known as the Demon Palace. The disciples of the state of Great Xia looked dignified, and many people were worried about Lin Xian. The second disciple of the Purple Demon Palace, Hua Yan, was several times stronger than He Ying Kai. This time Lin Xian is dead. The disciples of the Shadow Country all sneered. Many of the martial artists in the other arenas also looked in this direction. Even the black-robed young man was staring at the arena. Hee hee, young man, why don't you surrender when you see me? Hua Yan's voice was extremely sweet. There was a hint of seduction in her voice, causing one's blood to surge. Immediately, some of the disciples who were closer to the arena turned red, as if their skin was about to bleed. As soon as Hua Yan's voice sounded, Lin Xian felt an invisible soul force interfering with his perception. At the same time, the aura in his body seemed to be boiling. With a cold snort, the great dragon sword will in his body formed an invisible sword chi that cut through the void. Purple Extreme Devil Palace? The corners of Lin Xian's lips curled up slightly. That's useless against me. Lin Xian's gaze was sharp. Wherever it passed, it was as if a sword had swept past, turning everything into nothingness. Hua Yan was a little surprised when she saw that her charm illusion technique did not work. Hua Yan smiled faintly like a blooming lily. Her expression was extremely beautiful at this moment, and many people saw a strange scene. Since you want to play, I'll play with you. Lin Xian sneered. He had been studying the inscriptions given to him by Wine Lord and had a new understanding of the use of souls. There seemed to be thousands of inscriptions rotating in his right eye, and a strange soul wave was transmitted. Trap. The scene around her changed drastically, and Hua Yan seemed to be in a dark cage. Clang. The sound of iron chains was heard and she was quickly bound. The cold iron chains exerted a little force, and her clothes were shredded into pieces. Her jade-like body was exposed to the air and all kinds of torture followed. In the outside world, Hua Yan stood still and suddenly frowned. She bit the tip of her tongue lightly, and the purple light in her eyes intensified. In the spiritual space, her jade-like body suddenly changed and fell to the ground like petals. Where Lin Xian was standing, countless tentacles grew out and wrapped around him. Hee hee, you're still far from being able to use eye skills on me. Hua Yan smiled charmingly, and her eyes seemed to be dripping with tears. Release your most primitive desires. Pink gas gushed out from the tentacles and drilled into Lin Xian's body. The Sword of Souls slashed and destroyed everything. Is Wuxia still alive? Lin Xian suddenly asked. What? How did you know? Hua Yan was stunned. Then she seemed to have thought of something and her face changed drastically. Did you injure him? Impossible. Sword of Souls. Lin Xian smirked and a translucent sword chi suddenly pierced out, cutting off the tentacles around him. The sword chi surged and quickly slashed at Hua Yan. This is impossible. How did you know this move? Hua Yan's face finally changed. Her soul shook and she wanted to escape from this space. However, the speed of the Sword of Souls was unimaginable, and it slashed at Hua Yan's soul in an instant. In the outside world, Lin Xian and Hua Yan stood quietly without any movement. However, the disciples around them knew that they must be engaged in a special soul battle. This kind of battle was the most dangerous and the slightest mistake could cost one's life. It can't be, right? Is this Lin Xian so strong that he can compete with Hua Yan? Impossible. Hua Yan is the second disciple of the Purple Demon Palace. How can Lin Xian be her opponent? It's only been 5 breaths. Let's wait a little longer. These people were nervous and did not know what was going on. Suddenly Hua Yan's body trembled, and she regained her mobility. It's over. Everyone was excited and they knew that the soul battle was over. However, what they did not expect was that Hua Yan's face turned pale, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. How is this possible? Hua Yan spat out blood. Did she lose? Everyone could not believe it and hurriedly looked at Lin Xian. They saw that Lin Xian was smiling, and his expression was the same, without the slightest discomfort. No, I must be under an illusion. Wake up. Yes, it must be Lin Xian's illusion. Many disciples of the Shadow Kingdom shouted, unwilling to believe this fact. The disciples of the Purple Demon Palace could not accept it, and they would rather believe that they were under an illusion. Do you still want to continue? Lin Xian said lightly. Hua Yan covered her undulating chest, and there was a trace of struggle in her eyes. Thinking of his abnormal physical skills, Hua Yan finally sighed. Good brother, you won? What? Hua Yan actually admitted defeat. The group of people was stunned. Winner Lin Xian. The referee's voice echoed in the valley and it shocked everyone. Chapter 231. Ziyi only glanced at him and his opponent screamed crazily, bleeding from all 7 orifices. This kind of method was simply unimaginable. After easily defeating his opponent, Ziyi turned his gaze to the first arena. A murderous intent soared into the sky, as if there was an invisible heavenly blade hanging over everyone's head. Lin Xian felt a sharp soul force piercing towards him, and that force was several times stronger than Hua Yan's. He focused his mind and calmed down, preparing to defend with all his strength. At this time the soul force suddenly disappeared. I hope you can hold on for a while longer. In the arena I will kill you in one move. Ziya's words echoed around. Fuck. Ziyi is angry, this kid is dead. No one has ever been able to resist Ziya's gaze, even if that kid is strong. The disciples of Shadow Country were excited and couldn't wait to see Ziyi attack. Anytime. Lin Xian's face was calm as he slowly walked down the arena. Wow. The crowd around him parted, automatically opening up a path. The current Lin Xian could only be matched by a peerless genius like Ziyi. Ordinary people couldn't stop him at all. At this moment, no matter what these people thought in their hearts, their actions had already acknowledged Lin Xian's strength. The competition continued, and all kinds of geniuses displayed their powerful combat power in front of everyone. In the first arena, other than Lin Xian, there was also a strange and unpredictable black-robed youth, Wu Ying. In the second arena, Ziyi defeated his opponent in one move, and no one could resist him. Other than him, there was also Ouyang Changming, a disciple of Xia Country's Ouyang family. He also displayed his powerful strength, defeating many second-grade inscriptionists. On the third arena, an ethereal young girl's movements were gentle like a celestial fairy. She was Rain Country's genius girl Yu Fei. The strength displayed by this girl was not inferior to Ziyi, and many people were looking forward to the battle between the two. Other than that, there were also some outstanding geniuses. At this time, the second arena ushered in a battle. Ziyi versus Ouyang Changming. One was a recognized expert and the other was a rising star genius. The battle between the two attracted everyone's attention. Lin Xian's eyes flashed, and he was also carefully watching the battle. Judging from Ouyang Changming's performance, he was stronger than Hua Yan. But how would he compare to Ziyi? In the stands, everyone from the Xia country looked nervous, especially Elder Ouyang, who clenched his fists in secret. Changming, don't force yourself. Elder Ouyang sighed in his heart. On the second arena, Ziyi was dressed in a long gown. His purple hair fluttered in the air, making him look incomparably demonic. Disciple of the great Xia, I'll take some interest from you first. After saying this, his eyes emitted a demonic purple glow, like two purple stars. An aura that made one's soul tremble suddenly appeared, and the entire space fell into a state of oppression. Purple demon eyes. Purple light flashed, instantly enveloping Ouyang Changming. Ouyang Changming's body shook and then he stood still. The nearby disciples looked nervous. Many of them had frightened looks on their faces. It's the purple demon eyes. This is the Purple Extreme Devil Palace's most powerful eye technique. That brat is done for. I heard that no one below the harmonious spirit realm can resist the purple demon eyes. Not only the young disciples, but even some of the elders were also looking at the arena with serious expressions. They were more familiar with this kind of eye technique. It was an extremely powerful eye technique that could suck a person's soul into a special spiritual space. Once they entered, they would be at the mercy of others. Changming. Elder Ouyang's face was filled with worry. The elder of the Inscription Palace sneered. They were eager to see something happen in the Great Xia country. 1 breath, 2 breaths. After 10 breaths of time, Ouyang Changming still hadn't fallen. Although his face was pale and his body was drenched in sweat, he was still standing. He can actually last for 10 breaths of time. This kid is not simple. I'm afraid that even a second-grade inscriptionist at the peak might not be able to withstand it for 10 breaths. At the 11th breath, Ouyang Changming's body moved. Bang. He knelt on one knee, gasping for breath. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Drops of blood flowed down continuously, splashing into the air. To be able to last for 10 breaths of time, you should be proud. Zai's voice was cold as if he was a high and mighty king. Ouyang Changming's body trembled and a bitter smile appeared on his face. He was powerful and thought that he was the #1 person in the Great Xia country, but he didn't expect to be defeated here. The gap was too big. In Zai's spiritual space he didn't have the strength to fight back. He could only bitterly resist. I only used half of my strength. Zai smiled evilly. What? Ouyang Changming's body trembled, and the people around him exclaimed. Half of his strength defeated Ouyang Changming? Just how powerful was Ziyi? This Ouyang Changming should be the #1 person in the Great Xia country. It seems that the Great Xia country has no hope this time. There were sighs and sneers nearby. 2 disciples of the Ouyang family went up to help Ouyang Changming off the stage. Their backs were filled with loneliness. The disciples of the Great Xia country had a worried look. Were they going to be last again? You forgot one person. Huang Shanshan stood in the crowd and said in a low voice. The disciples of the Great Xia country raised their heads with a puzzled expression on their faces. Lin Xian, we still have Lin Xian. He defeated Hua Yan. The eyes of the disciples of the Great Xia country suddenly burst with light, as if they had caught the last life-saving straw. Yes, Lin Xian is also a second-grade inscription master. Maybe he can create a miracle. Although the one surnamed Lin is strong, he is almost on par with Ouyang Changming. Compared to Zai, he is far worse. Your Great Xia country actually put your hopes on a little brat. How sad. The disciples of the Shadow country ruthlessly attacked. At this time, Zai laughed and said, within 10 breaths I can get rid of Lin Xian. His voice was unusually cold, as if the space was frozen. Senior brother Zai is mighty. The Purple Extreme Demon Palace will win. For a time there was a burst of cheers in the valley. In the stands, the elders of the Purple Extreme Demon Palace had a calm smile on their faces. Zai's Purple Extreme Demon Eyes has already been cultivated to the 3rd level. I'm afraid none of the young disciples in the entire valley is his opponent. The inscription tower is nothing. When the time comes, the entire Shadow country will be ours. The people of the Nether Hall have already moved out. Our Purple Extreme Hall can't fall behind. Several elders of the Purple Extreme Demon Palace communicated with each other, their expressions full of pride. On the Great Xia country's side there were sighs. Elder Ouyang had already gone to treat Ouyang Changming. Elder Song and Elder Gu looked at each other and shook their heads. Can Lin Xian contend with Zai? Elder Song's voice had a hint of disappointment. It will be difficult. Elder Gu said in a low voice, but I have confidence in him. Elder Song looked at him in surprise. When I first met Lin Xian, he was only a martial artist at the 2nd level of the spiritual sea realm. But at that time he could continuously create miracles, challenging geniuses above his level, killing the older generation of martial artists, and even challenging the harmonious spirit realm. And in a short 3 months, his cultivation has reached the 6th level of the spiritual sea realm. Chapter 232. Every one of Lin Xian's deeds could shock a group of people. And when all these deeds were concentrated on one person, it was even more shocking. Elder Song's eyes lit up again. He had also witnessed Lin Xian obtain the title of second-grade inscription master with his own eyes. He was also full of hope for Lin Xian. The competition went on quickly. During this time, Lu Qing, Ding Zhi, and the others from Thousand Treasures Tower were all defeated. Lu Qing was defeated by Ziyi with a glance, and Ding Zhi was defeated by the ethereal girl from Rain Country. For a moment, Xia Country's momentum fell to the bottom. At this time on the first arena, the referee's voice sounded again. Next match, Lin Xian vs. Shadowless. Shadowless, the black-robed young man, was a martial artist as terrifying as Ziyi. Some of the disciples who were not participating in the competition all ran towards the first arena, surrounding it so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Most of them were disciples from Xia Country and Shadow Country. After all, this battle would determine whether Xia Country could rise. If Lin Xian couldn't even defeat the black-robed man, then it was even more impossible for him to defeat Ziyi. That also proved that Xia Country would be completely defeated in this competition. For a moment, Wei Wei, Shan Shan, Lu Qing, and the others were all watching nervously. In the stands, Elder Song and Elder Gu also took a deep breath and looked over with rapt attention. The black-robed young man stood on the stage like a ghost, emitting a terrifying aura. "Kid, your luck has come to an end to meet me." The black-robed young man's voice was a little hoarse. "Xia Country is destined to have no fate with the inscription tower." "Cut the crap." Lin Xian frowned. He sensed that some black runes were quietly forming under his feet. Boom. The copper thunder pattern shone brightly. Lin Xian's whole body was surrounded by thunder and lightning, like a thunder god descending to the world. Shio. Shio. The black gas was like a worm attached to a bone, quickly crawling onto Lin Xian's body. At the same time, the black-robed young man's fingers shone with a black light, and a dangerous aura spread out. Chi. A black light rushed out from his fingertip and attacked Lin Xian like black lightning. Disperse. Lin Xian's body shook, and the lightning patterns on his body flickered, dispersing the black aura around him. At the same time, his feet flashed and his figure disappeared. Whoosh. When he reappeared, he was already behind the black-robed young man. So fast. The surrounding martial artists cried out in alarm. They simply couldn't see Lin Xian's footwork clearly. Their exclamation was reasonable because none of the black-robed youth's opponents had ever been able to escape from the black finger light. Even the second-grade inscriptionists were no exception. But now Lin Xian had easily dodged it. The black-robed young man sneered. With a shake of his black robe, he disappeared. What? Everyone was stunned for a moment, then they used their soul power to search. Soon, a look of shock appeared on their faces. No. They couldn't sense the black-robed youth's presence at all. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. He released his soul force and carefully sensed. A moment later he frowned. Just like the others, he didn't sense anything. That kid is dead meat. How dare he show off his speed in front of Shadowless? Does he really think he's called Shadowless for nothing? The disciples of the Dark Shadow Palace sneered, their words full of sarcasm. Using Shadowless as his name was enough to show the black-robed youth's speed. The disciples of the state of Great Xia were shocked. They thought the black-robed youth's strength was his soul power, but they didn't expect it to be his speed. With such speed, the opponent can't even sense it. How can he attack? Don't be discouraged. Lin Xian's defense is very strong. Shadowless might not be able to break it, Vivian said in a low voice. The disciples of the state of Great Xia were stunned, then overjoyed. Indeed, the strength of Lin Xian's defense was obvious to all. Even a martial artist in the seventh sky of the spiritual sea realm couldn't break it. Just as everyone was filled with hope, a sharp black light appeared in the air. Its appearance was so sudden that there was no sign at all. Whoosh! The black light was like a crescent moon. It seemed to split the void in half as it struck down. Dang! Lin Xian punched out, hitting the crescent moon and creating a burst of sparks. Chi-chi! Crackle! Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled incessantly. Lin Xian shattered the crescent-shaped black light, but his arm was still numb. This was the first time he felt numb since he cultivated the copper thunder mark. After shattering the crescent moon, Lin Xian spread out his soul power, searching for the black-robed youth's figure. However, he caught a trace of the youth's aura and then lost track of him again. After a few breaths, the sharp chi slashed through the void again, coming from behind him. This time it was a black sickle. The sharp blade was suffused with cold light, making people's souls tremble. Puchi. This blade slashed on Lin Xian's body, creating a half-foot-long wound. The copper thunder mark was cut open a little. Although it didn't hurt Lin Xian, the impact was shocking. Below the stage, the disciples of the state of shadow were all boiling and shouting. The disciples of the state of Great Xia were worried. They thought that the black-robed youth couldn't hurt Lin Xian. Now it seemed that they were too naive. A black sickle was enough to cut open Lin Xian's defense. Lin Xian was also shocked. He twisted his body and quickly dodged the blade. It can actually cut open the copper thunder mark. His face was gloomy. He was very clear about the power of the copper thunder mark. Although his copper thunder mark was only at the lower level, a normal martial artist at the 7th layer of the spiritual sea realm couldn't break his defense. It must be that black sickle. Lin Xian didn't believe that the black-robed youth could break his defense, because the first attack didn't hurt him at all. What kind of weapon could actually cut open the lower-level copper thunder mark? Could it be a high-grade mystic rank artifact? He was shocked, but at the same time he was on full alert. This was a difficult opponent to deal with. His movement technique was strange to the extreme. In the following time, Lin Xian was in a passive state, almost getting hurt a few times. However, he also noticed something. This method of attack was very similar to my wind melting style, but it was much more advanced than my wind melting style. The principle should be the same. He blended into the wind. Thinking of this, Lin Xian's eyes lit up. With a flip of his palm, the autumn scar sword appeared in his hand. Weapon? Lin Xian actually took out a weapon. The nearby disciples were shocked. They had never seen Lin Xian use a weapon. Long sword, could he be a sword cultivator? Even some of the Xia Kingdom's disciples were stunned. Many of them looked at Vivian. Yes, Lin Xian is indeed a sword cultivator. Vivian nodded. Lin Xian, could he be the one ranked 20 on the hidden dragon rank, Lin Xian? Someone exclaimed. Instantly the crowd was shocked. A powerful sword cultivator was actually a second-grade rune master. This kind of news was undoubtedly explosive. Humph, you think you can fight against Shadowless with a long sword? Too naive. Yeah, a backward country indeed. The disciples of the Dark Shadow Palace sneered. They were very clear about Shadowless's strength. He was a genius who comprehended a trace of the wind mentality. Chapter 233. It's useless. No one can find me. The black-robed young man's voice rang out in the surroundings. It was so faint that no one could find his real body. You can try. Lin Xian sneered. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The black-robed young man said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, the air on Lin Xian's left was torn apart as the black sickle slashed down mercilessly. A sword light flashed and accurately pierced the blade. The horrifying force caused the blade to deviate from its original direction. Boom. The black sickle slashed the ground, creating a crack. Countless rocks rolled to both sides. The hard black ground was finally broken open at this moment. As soon as he succeeded, Lin Xian's eyes turned sharp. The autumn scar sword in his hand pierced out again as fast as lightning. At this moment, the black-robed young man had already disappeared. Wind Emperor's sword. Lin Xian pushed the Wind Emperor's sword to the extreme. The sword became transparent as if it had disappeared, leaving only the hilt exposed. This scene was extremely strange. It was as if the long sword was broken in half. However, Lin Xian's lips curled into a smile. Oh, dang. A low sound rang out in the air. Then a figure appeared. What? He actually hit it? The surrounding people looked at the black-robed young man who was in a sorry state. Their faces were filled with shock. Impossible. How did he find out? The disciples of the Dark Shadow Palace screamed. Even some of the elders were frowning. Lucky. He must be lucky. The black-robed young man's shock did not fade. Like the other disciples, he believed that Lin Xian's sword was lucky. He had comprehended a trace of the wind mentality and could merge with the wind. Normal people would not be able to find him, let alone hit him. Thinking of this, the black-robed young man calmed down. His body shook and he disappeared again. A black blade light that was dozens of meters long slashed through the air, but the black-robed young man did not appear. The dazzling sword light lit up like a cold light, illuminating half of the arena. Boom. The black-robed young man's body was blasted out again. He staggered back 7 or 8 steps before stopping. This is impossible. He finally lost his composure. Lin Xian did not respond. Instead he quickly attacked. With the power of wind and lightning surging, Lin Xian's speed reached the extreme. Those who were observant would notice that Lin Xian's body was beginning to fade in and out of existence. Sometimes they couldn't even sense him. Thunder and lightning surged and the wind howled. Wind and thunder blended together, and the terrifying sword energy tore through the sky. With a thrust of the sword, all the air within 10 meters was sucked away. Clang. The black-robed youth held a 2-meter-long black sickle in his hand and formed a semicircle in the air, blocking Lin Xian's sword light. However, in the next moment, Lin Xian had already arrived beside him. His left fist was like a dragon as he suddenly punched out. Thunder and lightning intertwined and instantly smashed onto the black sickle. The terrifying force caused the black-robed man to retreat more than 10 meters. Wind Emperor's sword. The sword light disappeared, and when it reappeared, it was already in front of the black-robed man. Whoosh. The black robe was torn apart, and a half-meter-long sword mark appeared on Shadowless's body. Luckily he had the black chi protecting his body, so this sword did not hurt him. However, his sorry state made him even more furious. You dare to embarrass me? You deserve to die. Shadowless tore apart the black robe on his body, revealing a black armor. As if he was a martial artist that walked out of hell, Shadowless's body was filled with black chi, bringing with it a sinister aura. Death Sickle. Shadowless roared. The black sickle formed a terrifying attack, and the sharp blade caused terrifying cracks to appear on the ground. The black wind blade wrapped around Lin Xian. As long as it touched him, it would tear him apart. Even a martial artist in the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean tier would not be able to block this kind of attack. Lightning Storm. Lin Xian activated his spirit power, and a terrifying scene formed within 10 meters. Wind and thunder intertwined, and the wind roared like a lightning tribulation. The two forces collided, sending out a violent energy wave. Violent air waves swept out in all directions. The overflowing energy quickly spread to the edge of the stage. Everyone felt their chests tighten, unable to block it at all. The black stage emitted light, forming a translucent light screen at the edge, blocking the storm on the stage. Everyone let out a sigh of relief and looked at the stage again. The 2-meter-long black sickle formed a terrifying wind blade attack in front of Shadowless. At the same time he drew a black rune with one hand, forming a black rain of light, attacking Lin Xian. Lin Xian slowly raised the autumn scar sword above his head, and the aura on his body gradually sharpened. Like a divine sword being unsheathed, a monstrous sword intent poured out, accompanied by a dragon's roar. Behind him, a ferocious dragon head was faintly discernible. Sword chi roared, tearing the air above, and the terrifying sword intent swept out in all directions. At this moment, everyone in the valley looked over, their eyes filled with shock. Sword intent. This is sword intent. Everyone was stunned, and the elder of the Shadow Country's face was extremely gloomy. Sword intent is one of the most terrifying attacks. Lin Xian's aura at this moment had reached an indescribable height. Perhaps no one below the harmonious spirit realm could resist him. Sword intent, what a terrifying sword intent. Lu Qing, Dingzhe, and the other disciples who were originally unconvinced all fell into a daze. In the distance, Zai Yufei and the other peerless geniuses also showed a serious expression. Dance of Death. Shadowless looked at the figure in front of him, and his body trembled slightly. He gripped the black sickle tightly, and the spirit energy in his body crazily circulated. Dozens of black lights appeared on the surface of his body, and together with the black sickle, they formed a sharp blade light. Whoosh, whoosh. The sickle spun, bringing with it the aura of death, like a dead person dancing in the night. As the most outstanding disciple of the Dark Shadow Palace, Shadowless used all of his strength at this moment. Lin Xian stood still like a rock and he felt the danger of death. However, this did not shake his confidence. Wind Thunder Cut. The autumn scar sword fell down, bringing with it the sword intent of a dragon, like a heavenly blade cutting down. The air on both sides was blown back and a 50-meter wide vacuum was formed in the center. The terrifying sword light instantly drowned the area in front of it. Shadowless also danced with the black sickle, turning into a giant sickle shadow and slashed up. More than half of the arena was flickering and no one could see clearly and no one dared to use their soul power. Sword intent was extremely sharp, and was said to be able to cut through the void, not to mention the soul power. At the edge of the arena, the translucent light rippled like a bubble, as if it could burst at any time. Everyone subconsciously stepped back 3 meters and looked at the arena nervously. After a long while, the sword light disappeared, and the arena returned to normal. Everyone looked over impatiently, and they all sucked in a breath of cold air. A terrifying sword mark appeared on the hard ground, and it was more than 30 meters long. Chapter 234. There were several sword wounds on Shadowless' body, and one of them even tore his chest apart. On the other hand, Lin Xian stood with his sword in hand, unharmed. With this comparison, it was obvious who was better. When the referee saw this, he immediately announced Lin Xian's victory. This voice echoed in the valley, lingering for a long time. Lin Xian also became the center of attention, becoming the biggest dark horse in this competition. Who would have thought that such a genius would appear in Xia country? Not only was he the youngest second-grade inscriber, but he was also an expert in the way of the sword. Lin Xian's name rang out in the crowd. It was the cheers of Xia country's disciples. At this moment, everyone's hostility towards Lin Xian disappeared. Lin Xian also became their spiritual pillar. Damn it, who said that Xia country doesn't have any geniuses? I'll fight him. Xia country's disciples all straightened their backs. He won, he really won. On the spectator stand, Elder Song and Elder Gu were excited. As for the Dark Shadow Palace's elders, their faces were extremely gloomy. Bring Shadowless back and treat him, an elder ordered. On the first arena, the heavily injured Shadowless was taken away. Lin Xian also slowly walked off the stage. In the distance, Ziya's eyes flashed with purple light, carrying a murderous aura. The ethereal young girl Yufei also had a look of curiosity in her beautiful eyes. At this point, Lin Xian was undoubtedly the first in the first arena, and no one dared to challenge him. Half a day later, the final results were out. The top 3 of the 3 arenas would participate in the finals. On the first arena, the top 3 were Lin Xian, Shadowless, and Duan Fei. Among them, Lin Xian was the biggest dark horse, and Duan Fei was a second-grade inscriber from Rain Country. His strength was stable and he was a veteran. On the second arena, Ziyi, Jiangfeng, and Ouyang Changming. Although Ouyang Changming lost to Ziyi, it didn't mean that he wasn't strong. On the contrary, his purple demon eyes that lasted for 10 breaths was enough to prove his strength. In the end, he won 3rd place in Group 2. This was the result of his injury. He believed that with some adjustments he would be able to perform even better in the finals. Jiang Feng, on the other hand, was a disciple of Shadow Palace in Shadow Country. His strength was second only to Shadowless. On the number 3 tournament stage, the first place was the ethereal girl Yufei, while the second and third place were Yan Bing and Bai Jingshan. The 2 of them were from Rain Country and Shadow Country respectively. After the group matches ended, 2 people from Xia Country entered the finals. Although they were still at a disadvantage in the 3 kingdoms, it was much better than before. Everyone returned to the stands to rest and prepare for tomorrow's finals. Your performance was very good, but tomorrow's competition will be even more dangerous. You must not let your guard down. Elder Song said. Although several disciples of Shadow Country were injured, their overall strength was still very powerful. This could be seen from the number of people in the finals. Of the 9 spots, Shadow Country took up 4, which was a full half. And Rain Country could not be underestimated either. That ethereal young girl's performance was extremely stunning, and was not inferior to that of Lin Xian. Lin Xian and Ouyang Changming nodded solemnly. Then the 2 of them began to meditate and rest. Lin Xian, on the other hand, was recalling the battle with Shadowless during the day. That battle gave him a new understanding, especially in the aspect of the concept of wind, which he had a deep understanding of. This allowed the power of his Wind Emperor's sword to increase again, and even his movement technique had improved. Although now he could not completely merge with the wind like Shadowless, his speed was much faster than before. The night was silent. On the second day the sun rose, illuminating the whole valley. The black platform emitted a faint glow, and the 3 tournament stages merged to form a huge tournament stage. As for the scars on the black ground yesterday, they had completely disappeared. Everyone was amazed, and Lin Xian was also sizing them up curiously. It should be the formation that has an automatic recovery effect, Wine Lord transmitted. Lin Xian understood and did not pay attention to it anymore. And at this time, the purple-robed old man went on stage again and said loudly, "Now, the finals of the Inscription Tower battle begin. The first match, Duan Fei versus Ziyi." Everyone was slightly stunned, not expecting to see Ziyi fight in the first match. Instantly, Shadow Country's disciples cheered. And Rain Country's disciples looked worried. I admit defeat. Duan Fei smiled bitterly. With his strength, he could not resist the purple demon eyes, and the finals were a competition to accumulate points. All 9 people would fight, so preserving their strength was the most important. At least you know your place. Ziyi sneered. Duan Fei is very wise. Rain Country's elder sighed in relief. The referee elder smiled slightly, and directly announced Ziyi's victory, then said in a low voice. Next, the second match, Yufei vs. Ouyang Changming. It was another heavyweight match. After entering the finals, it could be said that every match was exciting. Elder Ouyang and Elder Song's eyes flashed. They knew that Ouyang Changming's chances of winning were not high. After all, Yufei and Ziyi's strength were on par. Let's see what he chooses. Elder Ouyang's heart was heavy. Without any hesitation, Ouyang Changming chose to fight. Elder Ouyang was gratified, but then he became nervous. Although Ouyang Changming's decision made him satisfied, the battle situation was not optimistic. The ethereal girl in a blue dress was like a fairy descending to the mortal world, without a trace of worldly aura. On the opposite side, Ouyang Changming's face was a little pale, but his eyes were unusually firm. Traceless spring rain. Yufei's lotus-like arms waved, forming ripples in the air. An indescribable power gushed out, spreading out like water ripples. Chi-chi. A trace of ripples touched the ground, and suddenly a small hole appeared. There was soul power contained in it. An elder exclaimed in a low voice. Lin Xian felt the killing intent in the ripples and frowned slightly. It was obvious that the ethereal girl's inscription technique had reached a terrifying level, and she could fuse it into her attacks. Soul Fortress. Ouyang Changming shouted in a low voice, and his soul power fused into his spiritual armor, forming a double defense. At the same time, his body moved, and he quickly rushed towards the ethereal girl. Eagle soars the sky. Chapter 235. Although the ethereal girl wasn't like Ziyi who could kill with a glance, she still finished off her opponent in 2 or 3 moves. Just as everyone was still in shock, the referee's voice rang out again. Next match, Lin Xian vs. Bai Jingshan. Everyone's heart was burning again, especially the disciples of Xia Country who looked at Lin Xian with anticipation. Xia Country had a total of 2 people who entered the finals, and Ouyang Changming's strength was obviously second tier. So, Lin Xian once again became the focus of everyone's attention. Bai Jingshan was a slightly chubby youth, holding a semicircular curved blade. Haha, let me see how sharp your sword intent is. Bai Jingshan's words carried a trace of arrogance. Just as everyone was puzzled, a blinding light lit up. A light yellow armor appeared on Bai Jingshan's body, covering his vitals. Dark rank treasure. Everyone's heart jumped. No wonder he's so arrogant, so he has a dark rank treasure. Let's see what Lin Xian will do this time. I don't believe he can break a dark rank treasure. Shadow Country's disciples sneered. Bai Jingshan was pleased. This treasure armor was given to him by the sect's elders last night, and its purpose was to defend against terrifying attacks like sword intent. As long as he could block the sword intent attack, then wouldn't Lin Xian be at his mercy? No matter what, he was a second-grade inscription master and a martial artist in the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, so he still had this bit of confidence. Lin Xian is in danger. Nothing must happen to him. Xia Country's disciples were worried. Dark rank treasure armor? Lin Xian was stunned. Ah. Bai Jingshan saw this scene and laughed proudly. Lin Xian, without the threat of sword intent, you're nothing. Idiot. Lin Xian said indifferently. What, you dare to scold me? You're courting death. Bai Jingshan was so angry that he stomped his feet, and the crescent-shaped curved blade glowed with a cold light as he quickly slashed out. Against you, I don't need to use a sword. Lin Xian took a half squat, took a deep breath and then punched out. Thunder and lightning flashed all over the sky, forming a 20-meter-long thunder dragon. There were golden scales on its body and they looked very lifelike. Brr. With a dragon roar, the lightning dragon pounced towards Bai Jingshan. Everywhere it passed, everything was charred black. Rumble, in the blink of an eye, Bai Jingshan was sent flying while screaming. Plop, the slightly chubby young man was lying on the ground. His entire body was charred black, and blood was flowing out from the corner of his mouth. You, Bai Jingshan crawled up with great difficulty. The moment he opened his mouth, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Everyone shook their heads slightly. This was clearly a sign of internal injuries. Especially those disciples of the Shadow Kingdom, it was as if a basin of cold water had been poured over their heads. They were in an exceptionally sorry state. Humph, even if senior brother Lin doesn't use sword intent, not everyone can contend against him. That's right. Even if you have a tortoise shell, it won't be able to withstand that power. Xia Kingdom's disciples were in a good mood, and they all started to mock him. Indeed, after Lin Xian cultivated the Copper Thunder mark, just the power of his fist alone wasn't something a normal martial artist in the 6th layer of the spiritual ocean realm could withstand. In addition, he had used enough spirit power just now, and his body was covered in golden lightning. This kind of power was something a normal martial artist in the 7th layer of the spiritual ocean realm couldn't withstand. The competition continued, and the 9 strong warriors took turns to go on stage. Shadowless injuries were mostly healed. He must have taken precious pills, and with the treatment of a harmonious spirit tier warrior. His opponent was Rain Country's Yan Bing, who was also a young girl. Shadowless used his ultimate skill as soon as he went on stage and disappeared. Yan Bing could only defend carefully. Her body was covered in tiny water droplets, forming several water curtains. Dance of Death. A huge black sickle suddenly appeared, and with a terrifying presence, it slashed towards Yan Bing. Ka. The water curtains in front of her shattered like mirrors, and a black light slashed Yan Bing's body. The huge power made Yan Bing fly out on the spot, landing on the side. Winner Shadowless. The referee said expressionlessly. The spectators were in an uproar. He actually dared to attack such a beautiful young girl, he was indeed a madman. The Rain Country's disciples all had cold expressions as they stared fiercely at Shadowless. Lin Xian's eyes flashed and he sighed. Shadowless's movement skill was powerful, and normal people couldn't catch him at all. If he hadn't comprehended the Wind Emperor's sword and learned the wind blending style, he probably wouldn't have been able to defeat Shadowless in a short period of time. The finals went on very quickly, and almost all the battles were decided within a few moves. Soon the first round was over and the second round continued. Ouyang Changming met Ziyi as soon as he came up, and many people sighed for Ouyang Changming in their hearts. This guy was too unlucky meeting all the top experts. I admit defeat. Ouyang Changming's voice carried a trace of helplessness. He didn't dare to fight Ziyi. If he suffered another soul attack, he probably wouldn't be able to continue the competition. Next was the battle between Yufei and Shadowless. Everyone was interested and wanted to see who else besides Lin Xian could restrain Shadowless's movement skill. Little girl, just admit defeat obediently. Shadowless sneered and his figure disappeared. Shwa. A huge scythe suddenly appeared on the left side of the ethereal girl, and the black blade quickly slashed out. Shio. The blue ribbon spun in the air, forming a suction force that caused the blade to deviate from its direction. Ocean's heart palm. With a wave of her hand, the waves roared and rushed over. Whoosh. Shadowless quickly disappeared and merged into the wind again. Umph. The ethereal girl snorted coldly and her body turned slightly. The blue ribbon in her hand emitted a faint light, and with the ethereal girl as the center, wave after wave rushed out in all directions. It was as if 10,000 horses were galloping, and the speed was extremely fast. The whole arena was filled with waves and Shadowless couldn't hide at all, and his body was blasted out. Boundless ocean. The ethereal girl's palm emitted a blue light, forming a light pillar and sent Shadowless flying. Yufei wins, the referee said loudly. Everyone looked at the ethereal girl with respect again. Although it wasn't as sharp as Lin Xian's sword intent, the ethereal girl's strength was undeniable. So far, other than Lin Xian, he was the only one who could defeat Shadowless. Next, Ziyi and Lin Xian went up one after another, and they both defeated their opponents in one move. Soon the second round was over. Half a day later, the fifth round was over. During this time there were wins and losses, but only 3 people were undefeated. They were Lin Xian, Ziyi and Yufei. The 3 of them fought all the way and there were no losses. The 6th round began and the competition progressed quickly. Lin Xian versus Shadowless. The referee's voice rang out and everyone was stunned, and then they looked at the 2 people in the arena. Is the sword intent going to appear again? The disciples of the Great Xia were looking forward to it. In the first 5 rounds, Lin Xian didn't use his sword intent at all, which disappointed them. But now they could see his sword intent again. Humph. Shadowless looked at Lin Xian and his eyes were full of anger. It was all because of this kid in front of him that he was seriously injured, and so he couldn't use his full strength in today's finals. Thinking of this, A wave of hatred arose in his heart. Sword intent. Shadowless sneered. After yesterday's lesson he was like the chubby young man wearing a mystic armor. This kind of defense couldn't be broken by sword intent. And without the sword intent, Lin Xian wasn't afraid at all. Whoosh. Chapter 236. Shadowless seems to be very confident this time. Could it be that he has a plan? Everyone was filled with anticipation, especially the disciples of the Dark Shadow Palace. They were all excited. With the Autumn Scar sword in hand, Lin Xian slashed out. The sword pattern was like a sound wave that rippled out. Within 50 meters, the sharp sword ripple formed a ball-shaped attack. Tiske. Tiske. Just as Shadowless was about to get close, he was forcefully pushed back by the wind thunder sword ripple. Stumbling, Shadowless's face was once again filled with fear. The surrounding disciples were also in an uproar. This time, Lin Xian broke through Shadowless's movement technique even faster than last time. What's Shadowless movement technique? It's nothing in front of senior brother Lin. The disciples of the Xia mocked mercilessly. Lin Xian chuckled. The Wind Emperor stabbed out with his sword, infused with a soul attack and made Shadowless spit out blood. Everyone was silent. It seemed like Shadowless was no match for Lin Xian. On the other hand, Lin Xian's prestige rose once again. Now Lin Xian, Ziyi and Yufei had become the top three. The three of them maintained a perfect record and no one could beat them. Obviously, the top three would belong to the three of them. But no one could be sure who would get first place. Of course, if they won all 8 rounds they would naturally get first place. Ziyi was a veteran. Plus, with his creepy purple demon eyes, his reputation would be much higher than the other two. And in the next round the atmosphere was pushed to the extreme. Next round, Ziyi versus Yufei. The judge announced. The battle between the top three was finally about to begin. Everyone was filled with anticipation as they looked at the arena with fiery eyes. Little beauty, just admit defeat. Ziyi immediately launched a powerful soul attack. Purple light flashed in his eyes as he stabbed towards Yufei. Although he was arrogant, his attacks were very sharp. Purple demon eyes? Yufei's expression was cold as blue waves appeared around her. Layer after layer they wrapped around her. Blue ocean mirror. Her spiritual power surged, and the shadow in front of her suddenly became real. A 2-meter-tall blue mirror appeared in front of Yufei. Cold light flashed and it was as smooth as ice. Ding ding. A low sound of collision rang out, like a silver needle hitting ice. 2 small holes appeared on the surface of the blue mirror, but they did not penetrate it. Yufei stood behind the blue sea mirror with a smile on her face. Everyone was stunned and their minds went blank. He did not expect that Purple Knight's ocular art that had always been successful actually failed. Impossible. Senior brother Ziye's attack is a soul attack. How could a mere mirror block it? The people from the Purple Extreme Devil Palace screamed, unable to believe what they were seeing. Hua Yin stood in the crowd, her face slightly pale. She knew how terrifying Ziyi was, but the scene before her gave her a surreal feeling. Not only them but the elders also cried out in surprise. The elders of Rain Country were all stroking their beards, smiling as they looked at the field. Lin Xian's eyes flashed as he stared intently at the cold and dazzling surface of the mirror. His brows furrowed slightly. It wasn't as simple as it seemed on the surface. That was all he could see at the moment. In the arena, Ziye's expression was gloomy as he stared coldly ahead. That scene made him feel a sense of astonishment. It's actually blocked? Ziye's heart was in turmoil. Then, his gaze gradually became sharp and the purple light formed a strange pattern, but it was somewhat hazy. Illusion. The strange pattern in his eyes spun, bringing with it a strange power. Ziyi looked at Yufei. Bang bang. Bang bang. His gaze passed through the blue sea mirror and was imprinted in Yufei's eyes. How much of the original strength does the copied martial technique have? I'll have to personally experience it. Lin Xian wasn't too sure. But one thing was for sure, and that was the power was definitely not weak. Otherwise, Ziyi wouldn't have such an expression. I seem to feel a trace of bloodline power, Wine Lord suddenly said. Bloodline? Lin Xian was slightly startled. He had never heard of it before. Although it's very weak, it's the power of bloodline, Wine Lord said slowly after sensing it. I didn't expect to see the power of bloodline here, and it's a very special kind. Chapter 237. Yufei's martial arts technique shocked everyone. Copying someone else's martial arts technique, this kind of thing was appalling. However, just as everyone was discussing animatedly, Ziyi moved. He was like a purple shooting star, rushing towards Yufei at lightning speed. With a wave of his palm, a row of purple palm shadows joined together, surging towards the blue sea mirror with violent energy. Ziyi's target was the blue sea mirror. As long as he could shatter this mirror, then he would be able to use techniques. His speed was very fast and he was about to touch the blue sea mirror. And at this time another change occurred. In the mirror, that blurry figure also waved out a row of palm shadows. The palm wind was fierce, surging towards Ziyi. Long long. Two similar palm shadows collided, forming a dazzling ball of light, and terrifying energy swept out in all directions. Whoosh. Ziyi's face was gloomy, but he did not give up. Since he could not shatter the mirror, then he would change the direction of attacking Yufei herself. On the arena, purple afterimages were left behind, like ghosts and demons. Zai quickly circled behind Yufei and shot out a purple rainbow that was several meters long. The air vibrated and the rainbow was like a flickering light, quickly slashing over. Yufei's small face was slightly cold, and her body once again emitted a dazzling light. Behind her, another blue sea mirror formed, and at the same time, another smooth mirror appeared beside her. The three blue sea mirrors formed a triangle and surrounded Yufei, forming the most perfect defense. Ziyi was blocked and his body quickly floated backwards. For a moment, the two were in a deadlock and no one could do anything to the other. How can they fight like this? They are practically in an invincible position. The surrounding disciples' faces were ugly. If there was no way to shatter the blue sea mirror, then no one could hurt Yufei. This was the dilemma that all competitors would face. Could it be that it will end in a draw? The Shadow Country's disciples' faces were ugly, they did not believe that Ziyi would lose. Hing, come out and fight if you have the ability. What kind of ability is hiding behind a mirror? The Purple Extreme Demon Palace's disciples hooted. Idiot, you can't even break the mirror, and still have the face to call yourself number one. The Rain Country's disciples retorted mercilessly. This battle will end in a draw. The referee analyzed the situation and said indifferently. No, it's not over yet. Ziyi's face darkened. He slowly said, I won't lose to anyone. After rejecting a draw, Ziyi's aura gradually became stronger. His purple hair became even more demonic, emitting a faint glow. An indescribable power gushed out from his body, causing his aura to double. As for the surrounding disciples, they felt a wave of pressure that caused the aura within their bodies to churn. It's so uncomfortable. What happened? Some of the weaker disciples turned pale. Lin Xian also felt a wave of pressure. It was as if his body was instinctively trembling. Umph. With a cold snort, the great dragon sword will in his body resonated. The dragon pattern on the mysterious little sword emitted a light, and the head of the huge dragon seemed to be real. In an instant, the uncomfortable pressure disappeared. Bloodline power. I didn't expect another person with bloodline power. Wine Lord exclaimed. Is this the power of the bloodline? Lin Xian recalled the palpitating pressure from before, and a trace of vigilance appeared in his heart. This Ziyi was more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. Aside from him, some of the older generation elders on the spectators' stand also looked shocked. On Rain Country's side, an old man in white robes said with a trembling voice. It's actually also the power of the bloodline. I wonder how it compares to Yufei's? Damn it, how could someone from the Purple Extreme Demon Palace have the power of the bloodline? Just as Rain Country was filled with shock and anger, the elders of Shadow Country were also looking serious. To actually be able to make Ziyi use the power of the bloodline, it seems that the opponent is really not simple. Both of them have the power of the bloodline, then let's see whose bloodline is stronger, an elder of the Purple Extreme Demon Palace said in a low voice. After activating the power of the bloodline, Ziyi seemed to have changed into a different person, emitting a powerful aura. And in his eyes, there was a sense of confidence as if no one could stop him. Feeling Ziyi's pressure, Yufei, who was opposite him, no longer hid. Water-like patterns appeared on her body, and in between her brows, a symbol in the shape of a water droplet appeared. This is the power of the bloodline? It's really powerful. Lin Xian felt the two's auras and took a deep breath. On the stage, Ziyi launched a powerful attack. And this time, the blue sea mirror could not be replicated. Spiritual power surged, palm shadows filled the air, and the two fought together. Ziyi should be using a bloodline technique. This kind of martial arts technique can only be used by the corresponding bloodline, and cannot be replicated, Wine Lord explained. Lin Xian nodded. No wonder the blue sea mirror could not be used. It seemed that the power of the bloodline was really mysterious. In the future, you will find that martial artists who have the power of the bloodline are the real powerful beings in this world. Wine Lord said slowly. But you don't have to be discouraged. If you can find the Great Dragon Sword, then there is no bloodline in this world that can resist you. Great Dragon Sword, bloodline? Lin Xian murmured. This world is really wonderful. He was not afraid. On the contrary, a fighting spirit surged out from his body. The Great Dragon Sword intent seemed to sense this fighting spirit, and let out a dragon's roar. At this time on the stage the two people were locked in battle. Ziyi deployed the purple extreme devil pupils, wanting to use ocular arts to heavily injure Yufei. But the water droplet rune on Yufei's glabella protected her soul very well, not giving Ziyi the slightest chance at all. Everyone shook their heads. Looks like the two people could not decide the victor within a short time. Alright, this match is a draw, the referee said solemnly. Bang. The two people clashed a palm and separated once more. This time, Ziyi did not say anything. Using the power of the bloodline, his trump cards were already all used. But this still did not finish off his opponent. Moreover, this was also not the last round. He did not need to risk his life. Humph. Snorting coldly, Ziyi walked down the stage with a grim face. The following matches were rather dull. Everyone was still immersed in Ziyi and Yufei's battle. That kind of bloodline power made them yearn for it. But this kind of power was not what anyone could possess. This bloodline power was more like a kind of inheritance. It was said that only when the ancestor produced a peerless expert could it possibly mutate the bloodline, passing down this kind of power from there. For a moment, Ziyi and Yufei's fame surpassed everyone, reaching the pinnacle. After the 6th round ended, Lin Xian maintained a complete victory, while Ziyi and Yufei had a draw. Among the 9 participating disciples, Lin Xian was in the lead. But everyone was not optimistic about Lin Xian. With 2 great bloodline inheritors around, the others had no chances of winning at all. The Purple Extreme Devil Palace's disciples looked at Lin Xian with a cold smile on their faces. What's the use of a complete victory now? When he encounters senior apprentice brother Ziyi later, he'll definitely be defeated. Chapter 238. The disciples of Xia country were worried. After witnessing the power of the bloodline they felt powerless. I wonder if Lin Xian has bloodline power? They all looked at Lin Xian with hope. Are you kidding? What do you think bloodline power is? Cabbage? There might not even be one in the entire Xia country. The disciples of Shadow country mercilessly attacked. Indeed, bloodline power was pitifully rare. Only a small number of people had it. Lin Xian, on the other hand, had yet to display any bloodline power. Lin Xian's complete victory made Ziyi very unhappy. In his opinion, Lin Xian was just lucky that he did not meet him. Otherwise he would not have won. Under everyone's anticipation, the 7th round began. The first round, Lin Xian against Ziyi. As soon as the referee's voice sounded, the entire valley boiled. The disciples of Shadow country all laughed with arrogant looks. You can just wait to die if you meet senior brother Ziyi. Senior brother Ziyi can kill Lin in a second with a glance. The disciples of Xia country looked at Lin Xian worriedly. But after seeing Lin Xian's calm face they calmed down a lot. In the stands, Elder Song and Elder Gu became nervous again. Lin Xian was their last hope. But Ziyi's strength was beyond their expectations. At least they did not think that Lin Xian could defeat Ziyi who had bloodline power. You don't have to win. As long as you stay in the top 3 it's fine. Elder Song said slowly. But he did not know that Lin Xian's goal was to be first because only first place would get the soul amassing pill. In the arena, Ziyi looked at the handsome youth opposite him and the corners of his mouth curled into a sinister smile. Meeting me, your good luck has come to an end. My competition has always relied on strength. I believe you will know soon. Lin Xian smiled indifferently. Hearing this, Ziyi's face sank. You're still stubborn when you're at death's door. I'll let you see my power. Purple demon eyes. Purple light flickered in Ziyi's eyes. Within that purple light, there was a trace of soul power that contained a terrifying amount of energy. Sword Spirit Space. Lin Xian did not dare to be careless and hurriedly used his ultimate move. Runes appeared in his right eye, forming a unique spiritual space that enveloped Violet Night. Buzz. Boom. The 2 invisible forces collided in the air, almost tearing the void apart. A translucent mushroom cloud rose into the air, and a terrifying wave of energy spread out in all directions. In the eyes of the crowd, the two of them had only looked at each other, and it had already created such a terrifying aura. Impossible, how can he resist senior brother Ziye's purple blood demon eyes? That's a secret technique of the purple extreme devil palace. Even Ziyi had a look of surprise. His move was extremely powerful, and among these disciples only Yufei could resist it. However, the young man in front of him was able to resist it. The purple demon eyes is only SOSO. Show me what other moves you have. Lin Xian coldly shouted, runes flashing in his eyes. He had fought with Ru Shui and Hua Yan before, so he was very familiar with the purple demon eyes. It was not difficult for Lin Xian to deal with it. Purple demon light. Ziye's attack failed, so he attacked again. 2 rays of light materialized and flew toward Lin Xian like sword rays. Each ray was more than a meter long and as thick as an arm. They were covered in purple gas. Lightning flash. Lin Xian pulled his hands together, and several rays of lightning appeared in his palms, with golden arcs dancing on them. Like sharp lightning blades, the golden rings of lightning rushed toward the blood-colored light beam. The two merged, and the golden rings of lightning dissipated most of the blood-colored light beam's power before disappearing. Lin Xian quickly dodged the remaining small portion of the attacks. It's time to taste my attack. Lin Xian took a step forward, and his body disappeared from the spot. The air fluctuated slightly, and a figure appeared faintly, moving at an extremely fast speed. This is the concept of wind? Shadowless's pupils shrank. Although Lin Xian could not completely merge with the wind like him, this stance was exactly the same as his shadowless step. How did he do it? Shadowless was shocked, but he could not understand. Lin Xian's speed was extremely fast, and he arrived in front of Ziyi in the blink of an eye. The copper lightning rune appeared on his body and he punched out. It was a simple punch without any fancy moves, and it went straight for Ziye's heart. The air trembled and cracks appeared on the ground as if it could not withstand the power. Lin Xian was like the god of thunder, and the power of lightning that made people's hearts tremble instantly exploded. Ziye's pupils shrank, and he hurriedly blocked, forming several purple spirit energy walls in front of him. Boom, boom, boom. Like thunder from the 9 heavens, the sound shook the 9 heavens. The entire arena trembled slightly, and the air exploded from the impact. The spirit energy walls that Ziyi condensed were instantly shattered. However, this was enough. In the blink of an eye, he had already shot out the purple demon light. This time he even used a trace of the power of his bloodline, and the power increased by several times. 2 light pillars rushed towards Lin Xian and collided with the lightning fist. Break for me. Lin Xian threw out several punches in succession, forming a lightning shadow in the air. Each punch carried the power of the 9 heavens thunder, and it blasted forward. It was like a sword colliding with a sword, and it made a metallic sound. The two of them each took a few steps back and the ground trembled. Bloodline power. Ziyi was furious when he found that Lin Xian could contend with him. The blood in his body boiled and it emitted an amazing power. A breath that made people's hearts palpitate surged from his body. It's here, the bloodline power. The surrounding disciples of the Shadow Country shouted loudly, as if they had seen the dawn of victory. The disciples of the Xia Country had their hearts in the air. Great Dragon Sword intent. Lin Xian did not dare to be careless. He knew the power of the bloodline power. Only by using all his strength would he have a chance of winning. With the Autumn Scar sword in hand, Lin Xian's aura reached a new height. Like a divine sword being unsheathed, it was unstoppable. Behind him, a dragon-shaped long sword was faintly discernible. Sword drawing technique. The long sword was unsheathed, and it carried the power of wind and thunder. It formed a sword chi that was dozens of meters long in the air, and it slashed towards Ziyi. At the same time, Ziye's eyes shone with a terrifying light. It was like 2 light pillars that swept out in all directions. Clang, clang. An ear-piercing sound rang out. It was like thousands of swords clashing together, and the clouds in the sky were pierced. The air in the surroundings was boiling, rolling like the waves of the sea. Some of the disciples who were close to the arena all felt their blood boil, and they fell to the ground. Back off. These people backed off in fear and they left the arena. Lin Xian pulled out his sword and he waved it continuously. Every sword had the power to split mountains and it formed a sword screen in the air. Fall. Thousands of sword lights flashed, and they pressed towards Ziyi. Before the sword chi even reached him, countless sword marks had already appeared on the ground. Purple comes from the east. Ziyi pushed his bloodline power to the extreme, and his body shone with a sun-like light. Chapter 239. Ka, ka, ka. The blood-colored pillar of light brought with it endless pressure, sweeping out in all directions and pushing back the sword chi in the sky. Haha, senior brother Purple Knight is mighty. The power of bloodline is invincible. The disciples of Purple Extreme Demon Palace shouted loudly, their voices shaking the sky. Even the people of the older generation felt their eyelids twitch, secretly exclaiming in admiration. I'm afraid only Yu Fei can contend against him, an elder of Rain Country said in a low voice. Lin Xian was hit by the blood-colored pillar of light, and his body kept retreating. At the same time, the lightning patterns on his body shone brightly, and only then did he disperse the power. What terrifying power! Lin Xian's heart sank. Only after exchanging blows did he truly feel the terror of bloodline power. And according to Wine Lord, this was only the thinnest bloodline power. His bloodline power can't be used for a long time, so I'll wear him out first. Lin Xian stabbed out with his sword, using the fusion wind style to attack Purple Knight. Suddenly, countless rays of sword chi surged out from all directions, forming a cross that strangled him. Purple Knight's whole body was enveloped in blood chi, and his aura was exuberant. Every move contained terrifying power. With a wave of his palm, it formed a several meters tall purple light palm, blasting out in all directions. At the same time, his body flew out like a shooting star, taking the initiative to approach Lin Xian. Purple Knight didn't want to continue like this. He wanted to conserve his battle power so that he could fight Yu Fei again. Like a purple phantom, Purple Knight attacked like lightning. The light in his eyes intertwined to form a purple-red net of light, enveloping Lin Xian. At the same time, he attacked left and right, sending out two huge palm shadows, continuously bombarding Lin Xian. In an instant, Lin Xian's three directions were all attacked, and the space was about to explode from the pressure. Lin Xian's face darkened slightly, and he could only retreat. But he couldn't retreat. Through his soul power, he could feel that Purple Knight's aura was getting stronger and stronger. And this aura directly affected the battle power of both sides, so he couldn't let Purple Knight continue to be so tyrannical. Moreover, as a swordsman he would rather break than bend, and it was even more impossible for him to retreat. Sword light flashed in his eyes, Lin Xian raised his sword horizontally and lightly stabbed out. The wind was light and the clouds were light as if it was a casual sword strike. However, everyone felt a chill in their hearts as if they had been stabbed. Wind Emperor's sword. Lin Xian ignored the palms of light on both sides, his eyes only focused on Violet Knight. This sword contained 50% of the Wind Emperor's power. It was one of Lin Xian's strongest attacks. The sword light flashed past like a fleeting shadow. It was extremely fast. The light palms on both sides were severed at the waist, turning into fragments and dissipating. The purple-red light beam in front was also blocked. It was a light sword, but it was as heavy as 10,000 pounds. The surrounding wind seemed to have merged into the sword, and a vacuum appeared in front of it. Cracks appeared on the purple-red pillar of light, and Violet Knight's aura was blocked. You can't stop it. Ziyi shouted as he exerted more strength in his body. His bloodline aura became even more powerful as a blood-red light enveloped the entire area. This is... In the distance, the ethereal girl Yu Fei's expression also changed when she felt this bloodline power. What a powerful bloodline. She sighed slightly. Even she had to use all her strength to deal with such an attack. How could Lin Xian, who didn't have any bloodline power, block it? Facing such a sharp attack, Lin Xian's eyes revealed a trace of determination. He gripped the Autumn Scar sword tightly and pushed his sword intent to the extreme. A dragon head appeared behind him, looking ferocious and terrifying. A dragon roar sounded. Outer Sky Meteor. Lin Xian didn't hesitate to use his spiritual energy and used an ultimate move that he hadn't used for a long time. He had been practicing this move every day. Its power was above the Wind Emperor's sword, but it consumed too much energy. Under normal circumstances, Lin Xian wouldn't use it. However, he couldn't care less right now. As the sword light flashed, Lin Xian was like a shooting star as he quickly streaked across the sky, leaving a trail of light behind him. Ka. The blood-red light beam was knocked away, and a crack appeared on one of them. Violet Knight, on the other hand, was in even more danger. This sword was clearly aimed at him. With his life in danger, he couldn't care less about hiding anymore. His blood surged, forming a blood-red armor to protect his vitals. The long sword pierced 3 inches into the armor, and the powerful impact sent Violet Knight flying. Violet Knight flew 30 meters in the air before he was sent flying by a powerful force. He landed on the ground in a sorry state, and countless cracks appeared on the ground. Whoosh, everyone was stunned. Even someone as strong as Violet Knight was sent flying after using his bloodline power. Impossible. How is this possible? How can that Lin guy know this kind of martial skill? The group was stunned. In the distance, Yufei also frowned. This scene was beyond her expectations. You dare to hurt me? Violet Knight climbed up from the ground and roared crazily. Who was he? He was the eldest disciple of the Purple Demon Palace, and also the owner of a bloodline power. Before this, he had never taken anyone seriously. However, not long ago, a young girl displayed a bloodline power that was as strong as his, and he fought her to a draw. But now, a person without bloodline power had actually knocked him to the ground. This was something he couldn't accept. I'll tear you to pieces, and I'll make you suffer the pain of your soul burning. Violet Knight's face was twisted, and his voice was filled with endless killing intent. His bloodline power surged wildly into his eyes, causing his purple pupils to turn blood red. Soul fire. A deep voice sounded as if it came from the netherworld. Everyone's heart trembled, and they felt as if their souls were being burned. Could it be that kind of secret technique? The disciples of the Purple Demon Palace were shocked. Hua Yan's beautiful face was also filled with shock. She had heard of this secret technique before, but it was said that no one in the younger generation could use it. I didn't expect him to be able to use this kind of secret technique. The elders on the spectator stand were also shocked. The ones with the ugliest expressions were Elder Song and Elder Gu. The two of them knew how terrifying the soul fire was. It was simply the bane of souls. Lin Xian admit defeat. The two of them prayed in their hearts. They didn't want anything to happen to Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian didn't show the fear that they had imagined. He even smiled faintly. Soul fire, huh? Back then, Wine Lord had broken down several inscriptions from the stone eyeball, and one of them was the soul fire. However, Lin Xian had used it in the form of the soul sword. He had thought that the soul sword would be more powerful when combined with the great dragon sword intent. However, the fusion hadn't succeeded yet, but Lin Xian had mastered the soul sword. His left eye flashed, and his soul power formed an invisible sword that circled around his body. Whoosh! A ball of soul fire suddenly appeared, trying to burn his soul, but it was instantly extinguished by the soul sword. Violet Knight's pupils shrank. He could feel his soul fire being extinguished, and it made him very uneasy. The soul fire could burn any expert below the harmonious spirit realm. Its power was unimaginable. However, Lin Xian was unharmed, and he even extinguished the soul fire. Chapter 240. There was an uproar when the audience found out the truth. To be able to resist even the soul fire, this was already beyond their imagination. Is Lin Xian the strongest? Such a thought suddenly appeared in everyone's mind. Violet Knight had to use his bloodline power to fight to a draw with Lin Xian. Even his soul fire couldn't hurt him. Humph, I don't believe you can block it a second time. Violet Knight's face darkened as he activated his soul fire again. The runes in Lin Xian's eyes revolved as he also used his strongest soul attack. Soul sword. The invisible sword energy collided with the flames and fused with each other. In the end, both turned to dust. Seeing this, everyone was completely convinced of Lin Xian's strength. It was definitely not luck that he could extinguish the soul fire twice in a row. In the distance, the ethereal girl Yufei looked at the arena with a serious expression. Lin Xian's strength was enough to threaten her. This made her feel uneasy. In the arena, Violet Knight's eyes revealed a trace of confusion. How can I lose? I can't lose. In the next moment, the confusion in his eyes was replaced by ferocity. His eyes once again emitted a blood-red glow. Secret technique Blood Eye World. Violet Knight used all his strength to roar. Lin Xian's mind shook as if it was being sucked away by a strange power. The scene changed and the surroundings became a sea of blood and a mountain of bones. This is my bloodline world. I am the absolute ruler here. Violet Knight's voice was filled with hatred. I will torture you to death bit by bit. Blood Eye Ghost General, come out. Lin Xian was nailed to the ground and couldn't move. Sinister humanoid creatures appeared around him. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they pounced over. The invisible sword energy swept past and cut the humanoid creatures in half. Lin Xian kept trying to fuse the soul sword with the great dragon sword intent and finally succeeded on the 13th try. Dragon Soul Sword. Lin Xian shouted. A dragon's roar rang out as the invisible sword energy turned into an azure dragon. It soared into the sky and collided with the entire space. As if a heavenly blade had slashed across, the blood-eye world cracked and shattered. Ah! A pained cry sounded out as Violet Knight's body trembled. Large amounts of blood flowed out of his left eye, looking extremely terrifying. My eyes! You destroyed my blood-eye world. Ziyi covered his eyes and gasped for breath. He was afraid. That was his strongest attack, yet it still couldn't beat Lin Xian. Not only that, but his eyes were also severely injured. Alright, that's enough. Violet Knight admits defeat. A dignified voice rang out with a hint of anger. Everyone looked over and saw an elder from the Purple Extreme Devil Palace speaking with a gloomy expression. Lin Xian wins. The referee took a deep breath and announced slowly. The audience was in an uproar, and many disciples of the Shadow Country were dumbfounded. Ziyi, whom they worshipped, had actually been defeated. Furthermore, he had been defeated by a disciple of China. It was hard for them to accept such a situation. As for the Xia Country's disciples, they were so excited that they danced with joy. To be able to defeat Shadow Country's most powerful genius, they felt so good in their hearts. As for the Rain Country's disciples, they had complicated expressions. Although Ziyi was defeated and they felt good in their hearts, Lin Xian had become their greatest enemy. In the stands, Elder Song and Elder Gu clapped and laughed. They hadn't been so happy in a long time. Brilliant, too brilliant. China is really lucky to have Lin Xian. In the distance, the elders of the Purple Extreme Devil Palace had gloomy expressions, and a hint of killing intent appeared in their eyes. This kind of genius can't be allowed to live. Of course, this kind of thing had to be done secretly, and they couldn't let the Inscription Alliance get hold of it. On the stage, Ziyi was taken away, but his face was full of unwillingness. Thinking back to the beginning of the competition, he looked down on the world and didn't put anyone in his eyes. But now he was defeated with serious injuries. This kind of contrast made him very sullen, and he couldn't wait to kill Lin Xian immediately. I'll definitely avenge my left eye. Ziyi's heart was full of killing intent. I'll be the final winner. After 7 rounds of competition, Lin Xian maintained a clean victory and was ranked first. Everyone looked at him in awe, with mixed feelings in their hearts. The last round was about to begin, and if Lin Xian didn't lose, then he would be this time's champion. The disciples of Rain Country were extremely nervous, because only Yufei hadn't fought with Lin Xian yet. The 8th round of competition began. The participating disciples went up one after another. This time they didn't hold back and gave it their all. Ouyang Changming, Wu Ying and the others went up one after another, and each battle was more exciting than the last. And Lin Xian didn't move at all. He was comprehending the mystery of the fusion of the Soul Sword and the Great Dragon Sword intent. That kind of attack was beyond his expectations. In the next round, Lin Xian versus Yufei. Everyone was shocked, and then their eyes were filled with passion. It's here, it's finally here. This was the final battle, and it would determine who would be the champion. Lin Xian, dressed in a green robe, had a calm expression. Yufei, as ethereal as a fairy, untainted by the mortal world. The two of them stood facing each other, forming 2 powerful auras. Behind Yufei, it was as if there was a boundless ocean drowning everything. And behind Lin Xian, there was a sword that reached the heavens, holding up the earth and the sky. The 2 forces clashed, and it was as if 2 giant stars had collided, creating sparks in the air. At this moment, the surrounding disciples were silent. They felt as if 2 huge mountains were pressing down on their heads, making it difficult for them to breathe. Without a doubt, Lin Xian and Yufei were already above everyone else. These 2 were both favored by the heavens. On the spectators' stand, many elders sighed in admiration. Indeed, Lin Xian and Yufei, one had comprehended sword intent, and had an unusually strong soul power, while the other had a rare bloodline power, and had extremely strong battle prowess. Moreover, besides them there was also Ziyi. Although he had lost, no one doubted his strength. In the competition of the past 100 years, this was the most intense. In the past, any one of Lin Xian, Yufei and Yufei could become the champion, but this time, there were actually 3 champions at the same time. You're very strong, but I won't lose. On the stage, the ethereal girl Yufei's voice was filled with confidence. Then let's fight. Chapter 241. The 2 flashes of sword light collided in midair, quickly tearing apart and blending together. The sword light was like rain, scattering in all directions. Lin Xian had seen this kind of technique when he was below the stage, but experiencing it personally was a different feeling. I don't believe you can duplicate my sword intent. Lin Xian took a deep breath, and the 3-feet-long blade once again drew an arc of sword chi. Like a crimson waterfall, it was at least a few dozen meters long, as if the Milky Way was hanging upside down, slashing towards the blue sea mirror. This strike contained the sword intent of the great dragon, and its attack power was increased by several times. Yufei's expression changed slightly. She stepped lightly, and merged with the blue sea mirror in front of her. Suddenly, a fierce aura rose from her body, like sword intent. With a wave of her arm, a flash of sword light shot into the sky. Dang! 2 flashes of brilliant sword chi surged in the air, and the terrifying sword light illuminated all directions. Lin Xian used the wind thunder steps and retreated rapidly. On the opposite side, the ethereal girl Yufei also quickly retreated. Good job, senior sister Yufei. Seeing this scene, the disciples of Rain Country all cheered. Previously they were worried that Lin Xian's sword intent was too strong, but now it looked like Yufei was completely capable of handling it. Facing off against one's own technique, this was probably the saddest thing. Lin Xian's eyes flashed and he carefully felt that sword strike just now. No, it's not quite the same. He found a flaw. Although it was very similar, it was indeed not the same. People who had not comprehended sword intent could not display the true meaning of sword intent at all. Change to another move, this move is useless against me. Lin Xian's lips curled up in a smile. Yufei frowned. She could feel that Lin Xian was not the kind of person who would speak arrogantly. However, the disciples below the stage obviously did not believe him. On the mysterious small sword in his body, the dragon-shaped pattern glowed, revealing a vast intent. Lin Xian's eyes were firm, revealing the aura of a powerful cultivator. With a sword in hand, I am invincible. At this moment, Lin Xian showed the elegance of a swordsman. He moved like the wind, and the long sword in his hand slashed out rapidly. Every slash was capable of breaking a mountain. On the other side, Yufei did the same as Lin Xian. She also slashed out dozens of sword chi, shaking the void. It's useless. You don't understand sword intent at all. Lin Xian's voice was like thunder, exploding in the void. Melting wind style. Hurricane style. Wind-splitting style. Gale form. 4 major sword moves were launched at the same time, and the entire arena was engulfed in terrifying energy fluctuations. Sword chi that could topple mountains and seas, each stronger than the last, formed a terrifying phenomenon in the sky. Yufei also struck out with her sword to counter Lin Xian. However, she soon realized that the moves she simulated were losing ground. What kind of power is this? Why can't I replicate it? A trace of panic appeared in her heart. However, as a genius, Yufei was very decisive. He immediately gave up on the blue sea mirror and used his most powerful move. With the power of her bloodline, her martial skill was several times stronger than before. Sure enough, it was still his own martial skills that were more handy. Yufei calmed down. Boundless ocean. Above the sky, 7 layers of waves rolled up, superimposed on each other, and collided with Lin Xian's sword chi. Finally gave up? Lin Xian's lips curled up slightly, and a terrifying gaze burst out from his eyes. It was like a sword beam piercing through the void. Layers of waves came one after another. Yufei's body floated up, and with the 7 waves she quickly charged towards Lin Xian. Wind Emperor's Sword. The 4 major sword skills merged to form a sword. This sword was like a breeze, incomparably illusory, and like a fierce wind, it contained a terrifying killing intent. The 7 layers of waves were quickly split apart, and the sword chi was also rapidly depleted. Finally, the two canceled each other out in the air. At this moment, the power of Yufei's bloodline flourished, forming a terrifying attack. 7 layers of waves palm. With a wave of her palm, the 7 layers of waves behind her merged, forming a huge wave that was close to 100 meters long. A monstrous wave of energy gushed out, rolling in the void, and quickly rushed in front of Lin Xian. Boom. The power of bloodline exploded, exploding on Lin Xian's body. Boom. Lin Xian activated the armor on his body at the first instant, defending himself. But that turbulent energy still made him continuously retreat. After flying for more than 50 meters, Lin Xian landed on the stage. Instantly he spat out a mouthful of blood. Injured? Lin Xian was actually injured. Haha, senior sister Yufei is mighty, the power of bloodline is invincible. The disciples of Rain Country danced with joy. Yufei's eyes were also shining, and a powerful bloodline power spread out from her body. Lin Xian slowly stood up, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth. The power of bloodline is indeed powerful. He laughed loudly and walked forward. Boom. With every step he took, the aura on his body became stronger. With only a few steps, Lin Xian crossed more than 30 meters, and the aura on his body became stronger and stronger. In the end, his whole person was like a heavenly sword, incomparably sharp. Blazing sword chi spurted out from his body, connecting into one in the sky. Sword intent surged, seeming to have surpassed the past. An even more powerful aura surged out from his body, and wherever it passed, the stones on the ground flew. Lin Xian's sword intent at this moment had broken through 20%, and was quickly moving towards the small success of sword intent. Although it had not reached the small success of sword intent, compared to before it was much more powerful. Under this fierce aura, Yufei's expression finally changed. Her body, including her soul, had a trace of fear. Power of bloodline suppress. Yufei tried her best to suppress this fear, and then used all her power to resist. Blue sea connecting sky. Spiritual power surged and the sea and sky merged into one, becoming indistinguishable. And at this moment, Lin Xian stabbed out with his sword. The sword chi was like a dragon, roaring fiercely and suddenly fell, destroying everything in front of it. Chi. The sea and sky attacks were forcibly torn apart, and a huge crack almost 100 meters wide appeared in the air. The sword chi with an invincible aura, slashed toward Yufei. The armor on her body was shattered, and a trace of fear appeared in Yufei's eyes. She finally stopped resisting and quickly retreated. However, the attack that was close to the small success of sword intent was beyond her imagination, and that sword still managed to break through her defense. Boom. The earth trembled and a terrifying crack appeared on the black ground, spreading all the way to the distance. Whoosh. Lin Xian's face was a little pale. The sword just now had consumed most of his essence, chi and spirit, and the spiritual power in his body was almost depleted. However, the results obtained were also extremely good. Not only did he have a breakthrough in sword intent, but he also seriously injured his opponent. On the ground in the distance, Yufei fell to the ground with blood on her body. She struggled for a while and finally fainted. Whoosh. A figure flashed and took her away. The winner, Lin Xian. The referee took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. Lin Xian's performance was beyond his expectations. He originally thought that the winner would be Yufei, who had the power of bloodline, but he did not expect it to be Lin Xian. Lin Xian bowed to the referee and then walked down. The younger generation will surpass us in time. The referee whispered. Chapter 242. After a long while, cries of surprise erupted from the crowd. What a terrifying strike, my mind was almost destroyed. Damn it, how could there be such a terrifying strike? Is he really only a spiritual ocean tier martial artist? Senior sister, you lost, this is impossible. I must be dreaming, wake me up. The disciples of Rain Country cried loudly, they could not believe that the goddess in their hearts would lose. However, the truth was right in front of their eyes, even if they were heartbroken, they could only accept it. The disciples of Xia Country were in a daze, they could not believe this fact. All this time they had always been in last place at the bottom of the rankings. Even in the previous few competitions, no one was able to make it into the top 3. But this time not only did they make it into the top 3, they even won first place in one go. This was almost a heaven-defying feat. Everyone's face was full of joy and they welcomed Lin Xian down. A group of people surrounded him, all cheering and cheering. On the spectators' stand, Elder Song and Elder Gu's body trembled slightly, and there was a slight tremor in their voices. We won, we really won. Our Xia Country won first place. The joy of victory hit them hard. It could not be helped, for so many years, Xia Country had been bullied and looked down upon. But now they had won first place. In the future no one would be able to laugh at them, and Xia Country's disciples could also hold their heads high. Thinking of this, many Xia Country's disciples looked at Lin Xian, their eyes full of gratitude. However, the competition was not over, and there were still disciples who wanted to compete on the stage. In the end, Ziyi and Yufei fought again, fighting for second place. The two fought, and Ziyi won by half a move. When the judge announced that Lin Xian was this year's champion, the whole valley reverberated with the laughter of Xia Country's disciples. The disciples of Rain Country could only accept this fact helplessly. Yufei's face had already returned to normal. Lin Xian was indeed stronger than her, she had nothing to say about this. However, the people of Purple Extreme Demon Palace looked gloomy. Ziya's face was full of unwillingness, and there was a hint of killing intent in his eyes. Finally, the judge sent by the inscription union began to give out the rewards. The top 3 would have the qualifications to enter the inscription tower, and the first place would be rewarded with an additional spirit-gathering pill. After receiving the pill, Lin Xian consumed it on the spot and began to refine it under the protection of Elder Song and the others. This action instantly severed the purple Extreme Devil Palace's last shred of hope. Ziyi looked at Lin Xian's figure, his eyes almost spitting fire. His left eye was hazy, which was the result of his heavy injuries. The others were also envious, but they could only watch from afar. One day later, Lin Xian opened his eyes. A powerful soul force spread out, causing the nearby disciples to tremble. What a tyrannical soul force! Could it be that Lin Xian broke through again? Everyone looked at Lin Xian with uncertain expressions. Elder Song and Elder Gu were also looking forward to it. This was the peak of second-grade inscription. Yes, this was indeed the peak of second-grade inscription. The 2 elders smiled with relief. A 17-year-old with the strength of a peak second-grade inscription master. Such a thing had never happened before. The others sucked in a breath of cold air, looking at Lin Xian with envy. Generally speaking, from the early stage to the peak of second-grade inscription master, it would take at least a few decades. However, Lin Xian had actually used a single pill to deal with it. How could everyone not be jealous? The inscription tower will be open tomorrow. Before that, you should rest well, Elder Song said. In the past 2 days of competition, Lin Xian's body and spirit had consumed a lot of energy. Moreover, his soul force had suddenly skyrocketed, so he needed to consolidate it. Nodding, Lin Xian closed his eyes once again. The night passed by quickly. When Lin Xian opened his eyes again, it was already the next day. After a day of consolidation, his soul force had completely stabilized. Apart from the elders of the older generation, his soul power was the strongest among all of the elders present. If he were to compete with Ziyi now, he was confident that he could end the battle with his soul force within 3 moves. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian had a trace of expectation in his heart. A single spirit-amassing pill had already caused a huge change in his strength. He wondered how much the inscription tower could increase his strength. Following Elder Song to the northwest corner of the valley, Lin Xian found that the other harmonious spirit elders were all here. There were a total of 8 people standing in 8 different directions, forming a formation. Each of them struck a mysterious rune in the void, and everyone constantly moved their positions. A rumbling sound came from the sky and the ground trembled. A hazy shadow appeared in front of them, like the moon in the mirror, very ethereal. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the shadow gradually became real. At the same time, there was a sense of palpitations. 100 meters tall stone tower appeared in front of everyone, emitting an ancient aura. "You 3 come here quickly," one of the elders shouted in a low voice. Hearing this, Lin Xian and the other 2 quickly walked over. "We are going to open the inscription tower now. Go in and comprehend it well. Remember, you only have 1 day. After 1 day you must return to the first floor. Otherwise you will never be able to come out." Lin Xian was slightly shocked, but he remembered all the important points. Rumble, the stone door of the first floor slowly opened. It was a little dark inside and soul force couldn't explore it. Lin Xian and the other 2 didn't hesitate and quickly rushed in. Behind them, many disciples' eyes were filled with envy. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The 3 of them turned into rays of light and entered the inscription tower. Boom. The stone door of the first floor slowly closed. I wonder what kind of fortune Lin Xian will get in there? Elder Song had a trace of expectation in his heart. The light dimmed and the stone door completely closed. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. His soul force was limited in here. With his strength as a peak second-grade spirit rune master, he could only use 30% of his strength. However, not only him, Ziyi and Yufei were the same. This could be seen from the expressions on their faces. With a cold snort, Ziyi quickly left the first floor. Lin Xian ignored him. The Purple Demon Palace had entered the inscription tower more than once, so they must have a lot of guides in their hands. "Young Master Lin, see you in 1 day." Yufei whispered behind him and left. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. He wasn't in a hurry to leave but instead looked around. Although the light was a little dim, Lin Xian could still see the situation around him. There were many patterns carved on the walls. There were all kinds of patterns as if they were real. Hee little Xian, comprehend the first floor well. Wine Lord chuckled and transmitted his voice. Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. Wine Lord, is there something special about the first floor? 10,000 zhang tall buildings are built from the ground. The foundation is very important. Lin Xian touched his chin and carefully sensed. Sitting down cross-legged, Lin Xian closed his eyes and pondered. Gradually he seemed to sense that many figures appeared around him. They were all young disciples practicing basic inscriptions. Chapter 243. Lin Xian felt this scene and was moved. This should be a reappearance of the past. Carefully feel their inscriptions and compare them with your own. Wine Lord transmitted. Lin Xian carefully felt it and compared it with his own knowledge. He benefited greatly. He felt that his soul force had become purer and thicker, and it didn't feel like it had just been raised. What a wonderful feeling. Lin Xian was happy. He waited until the effect became very small before he stood up. Not counting anything else, just the fact that he had tempered his soul force made Lin Xian's trip worthwhile. Once again Lin Xian looked at the walls and tried to comprehend them. The inscriptions were very simple and not complicated, but Lin Xian felt an inexplicable aura. It was as if every stroke contained the truth of the inscriptions. Lin Xian made a decision. He didn't plan to go to the upper floors, but was determined to carefully study the inscriptions on the first floor. First, the inscriptions seemed simple but they contained profound mysteries. Secondly, his soul force had improved greatly. In a short period of time, he had completed a journey that took others hundreds of years. He needed to completely consolidate it. Haha, not bad. Wine Lord nodded with satisfaction. You can give up on the upper floors and focus on the first floor. I'm afraid there is no other person with this kind of courage. Indeed, all the geniuses who entered the inscription tower couldn't wait to rush to the upper floors. No one had ever stayed on the first floor for such a long time. Not to mention comprehending anything. If you comprehended the first floor, the benefits would be huge. It would be far better than anything else. With Wine Lord's support, Lin Xian was even more relieved. He concentrated on comprehending. The Great Tao was simple. This sentence was applicable to any kind of cultivation. Lin Xian understood many things from these inscriptions. Some of the areas that were usually unclear were smoothed out. Of course, the more he thought about it, the more he found the inscriptions to be unfathomable. Finally, he imprinted all the inscriptions in his mind. A day passed quickly. It was about time to leave. Ziyi and Yufei came down from the upper floors. The two of them were pleasantly surprised. It was obvious that they had obtained a lot of benefits. However, when the two of them saw Lin Xian's figure sitting cross-legged, they were stunned. This guy wouldn't stay in the first level all the time, right? Yufei had a puzzled look on her face while Ziyi sneered. The two of them ignored Lin Xian and paid no attention to the pictures on the walls. As far as they were concerned, how could there be anything good on the first level? An hour later, the stone door opened again. Ziyi took the lead and charged out. Yufei followed closely behind, and Lin Xian was the last. He slowly stood up and bowed to his surroundings before walking towards the stone door. Whoosh, whoosh. The four patterns flashed and entered his mind. Lin Xian felt energized. He felt that he could easily see the four carvings. Suppressing his excitement, Lin Xian walked out of the stone tower. Laughter rang out from the purple extreme devil palace. They must have gotten something good. Rain countryside was also filled with cheers. Ziyi reached the 8th level and Yufei reached the 7th level. Both of them had gotten something good. Lin Xian, which level are you on? Elder Song asked. Hearing this, the disciples of the other two countries also pricked up their ears. I thought he was some kind of genius. Who would have thought that he's actually an idiot? Ziyi sneered. Your Xia country's genius actually stayed on the first level for an entire day. What a joke. What? Everyone was stunned and looked at Lin Xian. Many people sneered and some were puzzled. In their eyes, Lin Xian wouldn't do such a stupid thing. Elder Song and Elder Gu were also surprised and looked at Lin Xian in confusion. Lin Xian didn't want to say anything. Since they misunderstood, then let them misunderstand. This way it would save him a lot of trouble. I just consolidated my soul power and spent some time. Sigh. Many people sighed. That was the inscription tower. There were so many good things inside and they were wasted by Lin Xian just like that. Elder Song and Elder Gu sighed and didn't say anything else. They would rest for a while and return tomorrow. Everyone dispersed and prepared for their return journey. At night, Lin Xian found the two elders and asked for some jade slips. Lin Xian, what do you want this for? Elder Song and Elder Gu didn't understand. Lin Xian held the jade slip in his hand and copied a picture on the wall into it. He handed it to the two elders. These days, I'm indebted to the two elders for your care. Here are some inscription pictures from the inscription tower. They might be useful to the two elders. Elder Song and Elder Gu were slightly surprised. They didn't think that Lin Xian would give them something like this. Using their soul power, the two elders saw a very simple inscription picture, but upon closer inspection, it didn't seem that simple. This is. Elder Song was a third-rank inscription master, and his knowledge far surpassed ordinary people. Although he couldn't understand it for a while, with his many years of experience, he knew that it wasn't as simple as it seemed. It seems that your harvest is greater than expected. Now I'm relieved. Elder Song and Elder Gu put away the jade slip and looked at Lin Xian with a smile. Lin Xian smiled and scratched his head. This was only one of the pictures, and it wasn't one of the 4 strange pictures. It wasn't that he didn't want to give it to Lin Xian, but there was an inexplicable force that prevented Lin Xian from copying the 4 pictures. Elders, I want to go out and travel. I won't be going back with everyone tomorrow. Lin Xian said in a low voice. He wanted to cultivate and increase his strength to prepare for the battle with Lin Feng. But more importantly, he had a map in his hand. The place depicted on the map was relatively close to where he was, and he wanted to explore it. Alright, the Great Xia is too small. With your talent, even in the Tianan region in the future, you will be able to shine. Elder Song was very knowledgeable and he didn't stop Lin Xian. This is the Deacon's token of the Inscription Union. If you have any difficulties, go to the Inscription Union. Elder Song said. Elder Gu also took out a palm-sized token. This is the Elder's token of the 10,000 Treasures Tower. From now on, you are an Elder of the 10,000 Treasures Tower. Lin Xian took the 2 tokens and put them away. Elders, I'll take my leave. After bidding farewell to the 2 elders, Lin Xian went to Vivian again. Lin Xian quietly handed over the jade slip in his hand and said with a smile, "Don't show it to others." Vivian was stunned, then nodded and put away the jade slip. "Take care, we'll meet again if fate wills it." Lin Xian waved his hand and disappeared into the night. "Take care." Vivian nodded vigorously. She knew that with Lin Xian's talent he would go far in the future, and she could only desperately chase after him. "Will we meet again?" Vivian clenched the jade slip. Lin Xian left. He didn't know that his 3 jade slips would become 3 inscription masters in the future, and their names would shake the Great Xia. Of course, this was a story for another day. The night was hazy, and the faint moonlight sprinkled on the ground. Chapter 244. Lin Xian guessed that the map should have recorded the location of the treasure, and the red dot could be the location where the treasure was buried. However, there were too many red dots and they needed to be verified one by one. The nearest one is 200 miles away from the Green Water Valley. Let's go there and take a look. Lin Xian put away the map. His body flashed and he disappeared into the night. Not long after Lin Xian left, the 2 purple shadows quickly rushed into the valley. Whoosh whoosh. Ziying was as silent as a ghost. The 2 of them arrived at the Purple Extreme Devil Palace's territory and quickly transmitted their voices. Reporting to 5th Elder, that brat really left. As long as you leave, things will be easier. The 5th Elder sneered, his eyes filled with malice. Such a genius must not be allowed to grow. Otherwise, it will be difficult for the Xia Kingdom to control him in the future. The 2 of you follow Purple Heart. You must kill this brat. For such a small matter, there's no need for senior brother Purple Heart. The 2 of us can do it. The 5th Elder said in a low voice. With ZXN taking action, I can rest assured. Beside him, Ziyi revealed a cruel smile. Lin Xian, so what if you've taken first place? You'll still die. Only the one who had the last laugh was the winner. In the night, a hazy figure appeared. At this moment, a devilish young man appeared. His aura was even stronger than Violet Knight's. After the 5th Elder gave some instructions, the devilish young man left quietly with the 2 purple-clothed men. Did you leave a mark? The 3 of them walked out of the valley and the devilish young man asked. He was the ZXN that the 5th Elder had mentioned. Don't worry, my lord. We've left some extreme purple chi in the surroundings. As long as there's even a little of it on his body, we'll be able to track him down. The purple extreme chi was a colorless and odorless gas. Only those from the Purple Extreme Devil Palace could detect it using a secret technique. Once this kind of gas came into contact with one's body, there would be nowhere to run within 1,000 miles. Let him run for a while. Once he's completely out of the Greenwater Valley's range, we'll make our move, Purple Heart said in a low voice. Whoosh. The 3 figures ran into the distance. Lin Xian hurried through the forest. A distance of 200 kilometers was not too far for him. Finally he came to the first place marked in red. However, after probing for a while he didn't find anything. He took out the map, confirmed his target again and quickly left. After a long while, 3 figures appeared in front of the cave. It was Xin and the other 2. "He seems to be looking for something," a figure asked. "Follow them. We'll make our move at daybreak," Purple Heart said calmly. After a night of running, Lin Xian finally arrived at the second location marked in red at dawn. This was a mountain stream and the surrounding spiritual energy was dense. Just as Lin Xian was about to investigate, he suddenly became vigilant. Lightning patterns appeared on his body and he flew out like a cannonball. Just as he was about to leave, 2 silhouettes appeared on the spot, stabbing their daggers into the void. There was a purplish-black color on the cold light. It was obvious that it had been smeared with poison. Lin Xian's face was gloomy. The 2 people who had attacked him had hidden themselves very well. His soul force had not been able to detect them. If it wasn't for the murderous aura that was emitted when he made his move, which alerted him, he would have been seriously injured by now. Your reflexes are not bad." A faint voice came from the void. Then a figure appeared. Purple clothes and purple eyes. It was the disguise of the Purple Extreme Demon Palace. "You're really haunting me." Lin Xian's voice was cold. "To be honest, your talent is not bad. We won't allow you to continue growing," Purple Heart said slowly. "If you obediently give up, I can consider leaving your corpse intact. Otherwise you can wait to fall into hell." Lin Xian stared at the youth who had spoken, and a disdainful smile appeared on his face. As expected of the demonic sect. "However, if you want to keep me here, it's not something that can be done with just words." Lin Xian was not arrogant. Even the number 1 of the younger generation, Ziyi, had lost to him. There was almost no one in the new generation of the Purple Extreme Demon Palace who could be his opponent. Unless the older generation made a move, he would not be afraid. "Who do you think you are? When our Lord Purple Heart was famous, he wasn't even born yet. The champion of this year's competition?" Purple Heart's eyes flashed with a trace of ridicule. "You 2 can play with him." Whoosh, whoosh. The 2 silhouettes in purple intertwined and pounced out like ghosts. The daggers in their hands were suffused with a purplish-black light, emitting a heart-palpitating aura. The 2 of them cooperated very well. In an instant they were on Lin Xian's left and right. Their targets were Lin Xian's vital points. Not far away, Purple Heart sat on a huge rock. She had an evil smile on her face, but her eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Feeling the fierce attacks coming from both sides, Lin Xian's eyes narrowed, and the aura on his body erupted like a flash flood. The rocks on the ground were instantly shattered into powder, and then scattered in all directions with the surge of spiritual energy. Streaks of copper lightning patterns appeared on Lin Xian's body, and the surrounding air was filled with the power of wind and lightning. He punched out with both fists and like 2 dragons they pounced on the 2 silhouettes. Clack. The daggers in their hands pierced the lightning dragon's body, and terrifying cracks appeared. However, an even more ferocious power surged out of the lightning dragon's body, and entered their bodies through the daggers. Many golden arcs of lightning entered their bodies and rumbled in their bodies. With 2 muffled groans, the 2 silhouettes retreated quickly, constantly changing their positions. What a frightening power of lightning! Shock appeared in their eyes. It was obvious that they had suffered under the attack of the golden arcs of lightning. However, since the 2 of them were able to follow Purple Heart, they were not ordinary people. After a few breaths, the 2 silhouettes controlled the power of lightning in their bodies and charged over again. Purple Ultimate Ecstasy Kill. The 2 silhouettes were blood brothers and their minds were connected. They knew what the other was thinking with just a glance. Under their combined efforts, a psychedelic assassination array appeared in their hands. He used his ultimate move so quickly. Looks like this kid is more interesting than I thought. The smile on Purple Heart's face deepened. Lin Xian tapped his foot lightly and his right leg swept out. The power of wind and lightning surged, and it had the power to wipe out 1,000 soldiers. Bam bam bam. The 2 silhouettes joined forces and took it head-on. The purple-black daggers pierced towards Lin Xian's right leg like raindrops. The copper lightning patterns emitted light, and like the most solid barrier, it protected Lin Xian's body. Swish. Formless soul power surged towards Lin Xian, and in an instant, dozens of silhouettes appeared around him. Each one of them seemed to be real. The 10 silhouettes joined forces, and they stabbed towards Lin Xian from all directions. Illusion. Lin Xian's lips curled up. The soul power of a peak second-grade inscription master spread out, and fiercely hit the silhouettes. Puff puff. The illusions around him disappeared, and 2 silhouettes flew out in a sorry state. Boom. The 2 silhouettes landed on the ground and a terrifying crater was formed. What a strong soul power. How is this possible? Fear finally appeared in their eyes. They could not believe that such a soul power would appear on a 17-year-old youth. Even Purple Heart, who was far away, put away her playful smile and her eyes flickered. Chapter 245. Purple Heart's words shocked the 2 martial artists in purple. They knew that this was a sign that Purple Heart was about to get angry. The 2 of them had joined forces and yet they couldn't take down a little brat. This was embarrassing. Strongest attack, Purple Illusion Heart-piercing stab. The 2 of them pressed their palms together as their bodies spun like a top. The air vibrated as the trees on both sides were uprooted and turned into powder in midair. Stab. A purple vortex flew out with 2 cold glints in its center. They were like the eyes of a ferocious beast and were filled with a dangerous aura. Lin Xian pursed his lips and the aura on his body rose again. Lightning surged and formed a strange rune. With a flip of his palm, the red flame sword appeared in his hand. The heavy sword had a thick back and a wide sword body. The heavy sword once again emitted a dark red glow. Like a brand, the runes on the sword body flickered and were filled with a mysterious aura. In an instant, the lightning on Lin Xian's body covered the sword and formed a sharp sawtooth. Holding the sword with both hands, Lin Xian swung it with all his might. Whoosh! Crack! This attack contained all of Lin Xian's strength and the ferocious power tore the air apart. Boom! The heavy sword hit the purple vortex and an earth-shattering sound exploded. An extremely unstable energy wave spread out in all directions. Everywhere it passed, everything turned into ashes. In the center, a light pillar with a diameter of 3 meters shot up into the sky and dispersed all the clouds in the sky. Purple Heart's body floated and landed on the ground like a feather. Purple light flashed in his eyes as he looked forward. In the next moment he frowned and his face turned gloomy. When all the light disappeared, Lin Xian's voice could be heard. The lightning on his body had disappeared and the red flame sword in his hand was dripping with blood. A pungent stench filled the air and made people want to vomit. 5 meters in front of him, the ground caved in and a deep pit with a diameter of more than 10 meters appeared. There were countless cracks spreading around it. In the pit, there were 2 lumps of mud-like things piled up and there was still the power of the lightning on them. Purple Heart's face darkened. He had seen that attack clearly. Lin Xian directly used brute force to turn his 2 subordinates into meat paste, and that terrifying strength made his expression change slightly. Very good, your strength has exceeded my expectations. This is even more fun. Purple Heart regained her composure in an instant, but the murderous aura on her body became even stronger. He slowly stretched out a hand and said in a contemptuous tone, "I can deal with you with one hand." If there was anyone else here, their jaws would definitely drop. Who was Lin Xian? He was the champion of this year's Inscription Tower competition, and his strength had firmly suppressed the younger generation. And now, there was actually someone who wanted to finish him off with one hand. This Xian was definitely a lunatic. Lin Xian looked at the arrogant young man in front of him and didn't retaliate. On the contrary, he felt an indescribable sense of danger from Purple Heart. As a swordsman, he trusted his instincts. Therefore he planned to give it his all. Putting away the red flame sword, Lin Xian took out the autumn scar sword. The sword light was like autumn water, shining in all directions. A sharp sword intent surged in his body, ready to burst out at any moment. On the opposite side, Purple Heart didn't rush over. Instead, an evil smile appeared on his face. "Perhaps I don't even need to do anything and you will die." Purple light flashed in his eyes as he suddenly activated the purple demon eyes. Purple flames jumped towards Lin Xian. Chop! The soul sword flew out, turning into a shapeless sword chi and slashing towards the purple fire. The 2 collided in the air like swords clashing. Split! Purple Heart's eyes moved, and the purple fire in the air suddenly split into 2. One ball restrained the soul, while the other ball quickly rushed towards Lin Xian. Everywhere it passed, the broken trees were all set ablaze, turning into ashes in an instant. Lin Xian suddenly pulled out his sword, and the wind and thunder sword light flashed out, hacking at the purple fire. The dragon sword intent surged, increasing the attacking power of this sword by several times. Before the sword chi arrived, a 100-meter-long crack appeared on the ground. Swoosh, swoosh. The purple fire was impacted and its speed slowed down. Under the pressure of the sword chi, it kept changing its shape. Whoosh. Finally, the purple fire dissipated, and the soul sword flew back. Lin Xian and Purple Heart faced each other from a distance. Peak grade 2 soul power, not bad. Purple Heart snapped her fingers, and a ball of flame appeared on her fingertip. The purple flame jumped. Although it was small, it emitted a terrifying aura. Lin Xian did not dare to be careless. His long sword danced and he quickly stabbed out. Swoosh, swoosh. Dazzling sword light surged and like a waterfall, it slashed down. The air trembled and explosions occurred continuously, blowing up the surrounding mountains. Facing this fierce sword, Purple Heart smiled disdainfully. She flicked her fingers and the purple flame rushed out quickly. Like jumping fairies, the small purple flame collided with the sword chi and constantly mixed. Like ice meeting fire, a sizzling sound could be heard. On the materialized sword chi, a wormhole-like crack appeared, and it quickly became bigger. Lin Xian's pupils shrank. The terror of the flame was beyond his imagination. Wind Emperor's sword. Lin Xian swung his sword again, and the fierce wind disappeared. It was as if there was only one sword left in the world. Ka, ka. Under the burning of the purple flame, the original sword chi became broken, and it finally shattered. However, immediately after, an even more fierce sword chi attacked. Clang. Thunder-like sound reverberated through the air. The purple flame was knocked away and its color dimmed. Seeing this, Lin Xian's body shook, and like lightning he stabbed towards Purple Heart. Seeing that her purple flame was blocked again, Purple Heart's face darkened. She opened her right hand and traces of purple flame came out of her palm, forming a flaming palm. Whoosh. She pushed out her palm and half the sky turned into a sea of fire. Sword light flashed and the endless flames were split into two. Lin Xian opened a path in the raging flames. Whoosh. His body shook and he disappeared again. The long sword in his hand pierced towards Purple Heart's forehead with a fierce aura. Scram. Purple Heart's 5 fingers formed a claw, and the flames on it jumped. She mercilessly clawed forward. Ding, ding, ding. In an instant, Lin Xian stabbed more than 100 times, and they clashed with the flaming palm, creating a series of explosions. Great Dragon Sword intent. Lin Xian's eyes focused, and his attacks became fierce again. Many of the flames on Purple Heart's palm were extinguished by the sword intent, and her pale palm was exposed. Purple Heart exerted her strength, and grabbed the Autumn Scar sword. Immediately, her face became ferocious. Brat, I'm not in the mood to play with you anymore. Die. A powerful aura gushed out from her body, covering the sky and the earth. It was as if 10,000 mountains were going to crush everything. The surrounding rocks and trees were crushed into powder by this formless aura, and even the ground caved in by half a foot. Lin Xian's bones cracked under the pressure. He tried his best to pull back his sword, but found that it was useless. Chapter 246. Half-Step Harmonious Spirit. Hearing these words, Lin Xian's pupils shrunk. His expression was somewhat ugly. Half-Step Harmonious Spirit Realm, this kind of situation was beyond his expectations. Anything related to the Harmonious Spirit Realm was not something a Sea of Souls realm warrior could contend against. Seeing the change in Lin Xian's expression, Ziexan couldn't help but laugh. He liked to enjoy the frightened expressions of his opponents. It was a kind of pleasure for him. Die in fear. Ziexan laughed loudly. His left hand suddenly stretched out, and a fierce spirit power instantly bombarded Lin Xian's body. Lin Xian decisively abandoned the Autumn Scar sword and retreated like lightning. At the same time he activated the ancient armor and the copper thunder mark with all his might. Layers of lightning marks flickered and quickly formed on the surface of his body. At the same time, a thick and heavy armor appeared on top of it. However, the strength of a half-step harmonious spirit realm warrior was much stronger than he had imagined. Almost in the blink of an eye, that fierce power had already crashed into his body. As if a huge mountain had crashed into his body, Lin Xian felt that all the bones in his body were about to shatter. Block it for me. His expression was ferocious. He crazily activated all his defenses, but his body was still sent flying like a cannonball. Crack, crack. On his chest, the copper thunder mark dimmed as if it had been extinguished. Not only that, but a glaring crack had also appeared on the armor he was wearing. Boom. His body crashed into the ground, creating a deep pit. Lin Xian endured the pain and drank a cup of spirit wine at the first moment. If it wasn't for the copper thunder mark in the ancient armor, this attack would have taken his life. Moreover, his loss was also huge. Not only was the copper thunder mark damaged, the armor on it was also destroyed. With the help of the spirit wine, Lin Xian quickly recovered. He didn't die? Zixian was very surprised. His attack just now was enough to kill any Sea of Souls realm warrior 1,000 times over. A purple light flashed as Zixian looked at Lin Xian. Humph, so you have a spirit armor to protect your body? No wonder you could survive. But why do you have so much this time? As soon as she finished speaking, Zixian quickly rushed over. Purple flames appeared on her palm. Lin Xian felt goosebumps all over his body. This feeling was like being stared at by a peerless beast that could swallow him up at any time. Don't take it head on. The difference is too great. Wine Lord reminded. Lin Xian nodded. Zixian was much stronger than him. Even Meng Yan, Lin Feng and the others couldn't stop her. This was not surprising. Although Purple Heart looked young, she was actually in her 40s. She had been cultivating for far longer than Lin Xian. Qing Nu, I'm counting on you. His storage ring flashed and a green figure appeared. Lin Xian's eyes changed, forming inscriptions that entered the body of the green figure. It's useless. In front of me, Sea of Soul realm martial artists are no different from ants. Purple Heart suddenly appeared, and her purple flame palms slammed down. Boom. The flames danced and even the air was burned, turning into a sea of fire that spread out in all directions. However, a green figure stood in front of Lin Xian and blocked the palm. Die. Zixian's eyes were cold. She planned to kill both of them together. The moment she touched the body of the green-haired man, a cold and dark chi soared into the sky, as if it wanted to devour everything. The rolling green smoke formed a fist that was 10 meters in size and blasted towards Purple Heart. The mountain rocks were shattered, and the trees within a 100-meter radius were snapped. Like a huge mountain, the green fist bounced off the flame palm, and rushed towards Zixian with an even sharper aura. Humph! Zixian snorted coldly. Her body was like a flame that scattered in all directions, and then reformed behind her. While the two were fighting, Lin Xian's body swayed, and he retrieved his autumn scar sword. So what if you're a half-step harmonious spirit expert? I've even slapped the face of a true harmonious spirit expert, let alone you. Lin Xian was furious. Since the other party wanted to kill him, he wouldn't show any mercy. Qing Nu, kill him. Lin Xian shouted coldly. This Qing Nu was the mysterious green-haired man who once followed Lin Xian. But now that Lin Xian had used the slave seal on her, she could only listen to him. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The green-haired man's hair flew towards Zixian like thousands of sharp arrows. He still has a helper. Zixian felt Qing Nu's chi and his heart became heavy. He put away his playful mood, and his eyes became unusually sharp. Unless he's a true harmonious spirit expert, you can just wait for your death. Obviously, Zixian didn't plan to let Lin Xian go. Purple flame transformation. With a flip of her palm, the purple flame turned into a 100-meter-long firebird that covered the sky and rushed forward. Off, off. Great dragon sword intent. Outer sky flying star. Lin Xian became one with his sword, and turned into a shooting star that pierced towards Zixian. The sword light flashed, and the autumn scar sword pierced through Zixian's chest, sending him flying. Wind Emperor's sword. Lin Xian attacked again. With a thrust of his sword, the wind and clouds changed. The glaring sword light slashed onto Zixian's body, sending him flying. The purple firebird in the sky disappeared, and Zixian's body was also sent flying 100 meters away. Lin Xian let out a sigh of relief, but then he frowned. Under his soul perception, Zixian's chi didn't weaken. Instead, it was getting stronger. Did I not hurt him? Lin Xian's heart was in turmoil. Kid, I have to admit that I have underestimated you. But with just these, you can't hurt me. Zixian's voice was cold. He took a step forward and arrived in front of Lin Xian in an instant. He tore off his tattered clothes, revealing the dark black armor on his body. I have a high-rank profound armor. You can't break through my defense. A mocking expression appeared on Zixian's face. With this armor, even if he was facing Qing Nu, he wouldn't be afraid. I will carve 36,000 cuts from your body, and then sprinkle them with bloodthirsty ants to eat your flesh and blood. I will let your soul reincarnate in hell. Zixian's voice was cold, like a demon's. Lin Xian took a deep breath. We don't know who will die yet. Qing Nu, go. Shoo. The green figure pounced forward again and engaged in a fierce battle with ZXN. On the other hand, Lin Xian continued to merge the Sword of Soul and the Great Dragon Sword intent. Finally, after 15 times he succeeded. Roar. A deep dragon roar sounded, and the formless Sword of Soul pierced towards ZXN. With the support of the Sword intent, the power of the Sword of Soul had at least doubled. This was also why Lin Xian had chosen to use the Sword of Soul instead of the Flame of Soul. The Sword of Soul was silent, and it quickly attacked ZXN. Humph, such a petty trick. ZXN sneered. His eyes turned and the Flame of Soul gushed out. The two collided, and the Flame of Soul only resisted for a breath's time before it was extinguished. What? ZXN frowned. He didn't expect Lin Xian's soul attack to be so strong. Ah. Chapter 247. The soul sword that had merged with the sword will had become extremely powerful. This move was very close to the attack of a third-tier inscription master. Purple Heart was heavily injured and dizzy. All the martial arts he had used had disappeared. Jianghu took this opportunity to attack fiercely. Her green fingertips scratched Purple Heart's body, leaving many horrifying wounds. Lin Xian met the sword head-on, thrusting his sword forward. Great Dragon Sword will, Green Dragon goes to the sea. The sword light was like a dragon, rolling in the clouds and roaring ferociously. This time, it attacked Purple Heart's forehead, intending to end the battle in one go. Blood splattered from Purple Heart's forehead. The Autumn Scar sword was less than 3 feet away from Purple Heart's head. At this moment, Purple Heart suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were purple. His head was in a mess. The long sword had scratched his head, leaving a bloody mark. Kid, I want you dead. Purple Heart was furious. The blood on his forehead had evaporated. Purple Extreme Secret Art, Blood Evil Descent. Boom. His body suddenly grew 3 feet tall like a giant. It was the Purple Extreme Hall's martial arts. Jianghu smiled evilly and pointed out. Purple Heart's swollen body was like a deflated balloon. It immediately softened. Impossible. How did you break it? Fear appeared on Purple Heart's face. This was the Purple Extreme Demon Palace's secret art. It was impossible to break it. However, the green-haired man had broken it with a single finger. This had completely overturned his understanding. He did not know that the green-haired man was the clone of the evil dragon sect's envoy, and that the Purple Extreme Demon Palace was only one of its halls. In front of the green-haired man, the two had different statuses. Master, release my seal. I have a way to kill him. The green-haired man looked back at Lin Xian with excitement in his eyes. Lin Xian frowned as a bad premonition arose in his heart. Umph. He snorted and used the slave seal. The green-haired man showed a pained expression. At the same time, Lin Xian's body flashed and appeared in front of Purple Heart. Kid, you dare to touch me? Purple Heart was furious. Lin Xian's gaze was cold. Cold light flickered on his fingertips. Half of the mysterious ice chi flowed out and circled around ZXIN's body. An abnormally cold aura overflowed and froze everything in the surroundings. How is this possible? Purple Heart's face was filled with terror. He could feel the threat of death looming over him. Crack. His head was frozen, and the fear on his face was frozen forever. With a flash of sword light, a head flew up. Purple Heart's face was still filled with fear. Even in death he still could not believe that Lin Xian could kill him so easily. The green-haired man's expression changed drastically when he sensed the icy chi. Lin Xian's cold gaze enveloped Jianghu as he warned, "Don't play any tricks or I'll kill you." The green-haired man didn't dare to act rashly and could only obey obediently. Lin Xian formed a seal with his palm and used the slave seal to put the blue-haired man away. Then he showed a pained expression. That was his last trace of mysterious ice chi. Now that he had used half of it, there was still half of it left. However, he didn't regret it. Firstly, he killed Purple Heart, and secondly, he used this opportunity to intimidate Jianghu, putting away his long sword. Lin Xian took off Purple Heart's upper-grade Mystic Class armor and put it on. Then he took off Purple Heart's storage ring. With a flick of his finger, a golden electric arc flew out and shattered Purple Heart's corpse. After jumping down the mountain stream, Lin Xian found a safe place and heaved a sigh of relief. In the battle just now, he had taken a palm strike from Purple Heart and suffered a serious internal injury. After drinking a cup of spirit wine, Lin Xian began to circulate the longevity art. 2 hours later he opened his eyes. With a flip of his hand, Purple Heart's storage ring appeared. He hoped to receive some compensation. Lin Xian had a trace of anticipation in his heart. 30,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Lin Xian's pupils contracted. This guy is really rich. Middle-grade spirit stones were far more precious than low-grade spirit stones. 30,000 mid-grade spirit stones was something that even some two-star sect elders might not necessarily have. In addition to the spirit stones, Lin Xian also found the complete version of the purple demon eyes, which was many times more powerful than the purple spirit eyes. Even though Lin Xian had the inscriptions from the stone eyeball, the purple demon eyes was still of great value to him. As for the other low-grade mystic class artifacts, Lin Xian didn't really care about them. After putting these things away, Lin Xian stood up and looked around. He still didn't find anything, so he decisively left. In the following days, Lin Xian searched one by one according to the red marks on the map while comprehending the 4 inscriptions in his mind. These 4 inscriptions recorded the soul cultivation method, which allowed Lin Xian's soul cultivation to be faster than before. At the same time, he also practiced the sword art that Wine Lord gave him. The 9 green cloud swords had a total of 9 moves. When used together with the dragon sword intent, it was extremely powerful. After more than a month of practice, Lin Xian could perform the first 3 moves. In the past month, he had found almost half of the red marks on the map. The next one was 3,000 miles away. Lin Xian's body swayed, and he moved out like a dragon. This set of footwork was called the Dragon Rebel Steps, which contained the 7 Rebel Dragon Steps. It was also given to him by Wine Lord. With the Dragon Rebel Steps, Lin Xian's speed was 3 times faster than before. Lin Xian's body swayed and he disappeared from the forest. While Lin Xian was searching for the marks on the map, the 3-star sects of the Xia Country, Shadow Country, and other neighboring countries were also busy. Xia Country Snow-Seeking Sect. 1 Blade Ice and Snow. The floating island that only opens once every few hundred years is finally open again. This time we have been promoted to a 3-star sect. The 2 of you can enter, an elder said with a smile. Swordpool Mansion Lin family. Feng, the floating island this time is a great opportunity. You must not miss it. The Earth Fire Sect, Blue Moon Sect and other 3-star sects were all preparing. Shadow Country, Purple Demon Palace. The 2 elders' faces darkened. Purple Heart has been out for a month. Why hasn't she returned yet? The floating island is about to open. Could there be an accident? Impossible. What accident can there be when dealing with a 2nd-grade inscriber? Let's wait for another 3 days. If she still doesn't come back, we'll change it to someone else. This is a competition between all the forces in the Tianan region. We can't be careless. Lin Xian didn't know about this. He was looking for his next destination. 5 days later he arrived at a mountain peak. Still nothing. Lin Xian sighed. He didn't want to waste any more time. Rest for a while. Let's go somewhere else to train. Lin Xian took out the ice platform and began cultivating. Not long after, the sky suddenly darkened as if a huge palm had covered the sky. At the same time, a terrifying pressure came from the sky. Whoosh! Lin Xian suddenly opened his eyes and put away the ice platform. He looked at the sky cautiously. Wooji wooji. The little white monkey jumped onto his shoulder and looked curiously at the sky with its black gem-like eyes. Ever since it ate the dragon fruit, it had fallen into a deep sleep and had only woken up a few days ago. This pressure should come from a strange independent space, said Lord Alcohol with a voice transmission. Lin Xian touched his chin. What kind of space is so scary? Buzz buzz. Suddenly, thousands of rays of light shot down from the dark sky and flew in all directions. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.